What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Season Gaming Bitcast, episode 305. It has been an incredible week for games, and we are here to talk all about them. Finally, a little late this morning in our live show, but we're here. We're ready. It was Hoag's fault all along, as we knew. I'm your host, Ainsley Bowden, joined, of course, by the Mr. Lawman himself and Tie Guy Travis. Travis, how are you and Elgato doing this morning?
Yeah, my opening message, just to the people at Elgato, your products are terrible. Your business should fold, and the people who work there, from the CEO to the lowliest paper pusher, are universally bad people. So I just want to get that message out there. Do not buy Elgato products; they're terrible.
This message has not been sponsored by Elgato or its competitors.
Yeah,
or Season Gaming, for that matter.
Yeah. This is God, I'm mad right now. Their products just do not work. My whole setup is their stuff, and not one piece of the element works. It is like they're trying to make products that fail, and they're succeeding. It's incredible, truly a feat. So that's what I'm doing this morning. I'm just so mad right now.
Let's celebrate.
We'll let him. Yeah, we'll let him cool down for a second as I hand it to the lawman himself, Mr. Hardcore Hoag. How we doing?
Hardcore. Wow.
Hardcore Hoag.
I am good. I am excited to talk about games. It has been a fantastic week of games news and dev walkthroughs and things. And I have been watching a lot of IGN content, Travis, because they've had some wonderful dev talks at their table there in Germany. And so this is what I love. This is like E3. I didn't know that Gamescom was going to get this kind of blowout treatment this week. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're going to get into it. So we've got a lot to talk about today. So we're going to talk about Black Myth Wukong, of course. We talked about reviews briefly last week, but, I've got time in it now. Hoag's got a little time in it. I don't know about you, Travis, but we're going to be talking about Wukong. And obviously the sales and reception for that game have been insane. So we'll talk about that. We've got Concord. We want to talk on Concord. Me and Travis are both reviewing it. Hoag has a lot of time into it as well. So you're looking at three people who actually have a lot of time in Concord and can speak to it pretty well. And then we're going to get really into Gamescom. So all of the games, not all of them, way too many to talk about, but a lot of the games that were announced, updates, DLC, timelines, release dates, all that stuff. So we're going to get into it. But before we do that, of course, let's get caught up with our community, some of the early super chats, and the first one we got, which actually came in very early this morning. And Travis is a fantastic super chat to kick us off this week from Commander Shepard himself.
Commander Shepard gives 2.77 euros to say this is my favorite podcast on the Citadel.
That's it. That's the best endorsement you can get. Yeah,
that's right.
That's
he
right.
gives that same endorsement to every other podcast, as we all know.
But
I just like that we reached the Citadel.
Yeah. We're beyond global at this point.
Although we're in like the bad part of the Citadel, that's just like 2 hallways. Based on that,
we only play in the elevator.
Yeah. Well, no, the elevator's in the first game, but yeah, we're like, if he's saying we're the best on the Citadel, we're in the little loop-de-loop that is Mass Effect 2 Citadel, which is far inferior.
Of course, like a lot of things in Mass Effect 2. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Commander Shepard. Let's get the member comment from Shoosh.
Shoosh has been a member for 14 months and writes, "Time to monkey."
Monkey.
Fair
enough, Shoosh. Thank you, my friend.
A reference to Black Myth Wukong, where you are a monkey.
Monkey. All right.
That Wukong voice acting is hilarious. I love that when you turn that game on. But your mileage may vary.
Yeah. Well, I don't. Are you? So I'm playing it in Chinese with English subtitles. Are you playing it in English?
No, I'm playing it in English. So I did not hear the Chinese voice acting of.
Oh, it's great. It's hilarious.
I'm sure you can tell that it's great because you're very versed in Chinese and how it should sound like and how it shouldn't sound.
Exactly.
Like.
I'm enjoying the game really in its native form.
Wukong and the Destined One are mostly making monkey noises, Travis. So.
Yeah.
Googleman
81 offers 10 euros to say got a replacement controller and put the old worn down analog sticks and D-pad on.
Sure.
Because it feels nicer. Am I a nerd or what? No question. Just saying, am I a nerd or what?
Just a statement.
Secret level on Prime.
We should probably at least mention that. I don't know that it's on our list, Ains.
Yeah, I debated it. We will mention it though.
Secret level on Prime.
Yeah, Secret level.
It's a show coming out in November, I believe, later this year on Prime.
I want to say December, but yeah,
maybe December.
It's on Prime. It's an animated look at various video game worlds. Like if you were on social media this week, you saw all of these different companies saying we're in secret level, and that was pretty cool. It's a pretty cool idea. I hope it turns out. I think they say it's from the makers of Love and Robots. I didn't love that series, but there are a couple of winning episodes in there, so I'm excited about it. Seems cool.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of the developers are excited about it, so we'll see. I don't know about getting a new controller and putting the worn down sticks and D-pad on. That's odd to me, but
so it feels Google. So it feels like the way your fingers meant them to feel.
Feels like home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm weird. I always want new thumbsticks because
I'm not using any of your fancy controllers. I'm not hitting anything on the back. I'm not
what?
I'm not hitting anything on the back. I'm not changing things on the front.
Hood plays like it's 1998.
I'm not using one of those weird discs instead of the D-pad.
Okay, that part is crazy. I don't know why anybody did that, but
fair enough. Googleman, thank you as always, my friend.
I just had a whole bunch of people tell me that gyroscopic controllers are the superior way to use.
Stop it.
I'm serious.
They are very useful in shooters.
They were talking about competitive too. They were like, if the Xbox controller had a gyroscopic controller, it would be the ultimate competitive device. And I was like, all right, man, more power to you. I had the same kind of reaction you did, Ames. I was like, all right, bro. And they were like, trust me, bro. Once you play Splatoon 3 and you get used to the gyro, you never go back. And I was just like, all right, buddy. That's cool, dude.
Your friend sound, what do the kids say? Based.
Yeah. There were a couple of them. I was ambushed in a Concord lobby.
I was ambushed.
Debbie Dubs gives us $10 and writes, loving the war within so far. So glad Chris Metzen is back at the helm. Side note, Seattle is still summer. It's not rainy time. It better not still be raining when I see Metallica next week. Angry frowning face.
I'm confused. You said it's still summer. It's not rainy time. It better. Oh, okay. I got it now. Took me a second. So she's saying it's supposed to be not rainy time, but it has been raining. So she's hoping it stops when she sees Metallica. Okay.
Fraser had just convinced me it only rains in Seattle, but hey,
yeah.
Apparently sitcoms are not true examples of the world.
I mean,
no,
it's kind of true though.
No, summer's really nice. Yeah, I think that's what she's saying because I lived there for a little while. Summer is really nice, but the rest of the year it rains a lot. Yeah. Chris Metzen, I've heard the same from the people who play WoW at SG that they're loving it. Apparently, there was not a cutscene, a cinematic that was like incredible. I know Steve was raving about it. So
that's
I can't speak to the World of Warcraft, but I can say that I've liked their ad campaign that's run because I've watched so many YouTube videos for Gamescom that they have a series of ads where it's like random people on the street that find a giant sword or a giant axe, and it just says LFG, and the commercial package is come back to the fight or something like that. And I find that interesting because it's an acknowledgement that they had lost certain amounts of their audience, and they view the war within as something to come back for, return to the World of Warcraft. And I like that as an idea because you usually don't see that from media.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the people that all the people I've talked to about WoW are super, super excited, like Debbie. So it's awesome. Love to see it. Enjoy the concert, Deb. If we don't talk to you before then, a couple things to shout out. Midnight Dreary gifted 1 season gaming membership. Thank you, Dreary. Always appreciated. Following right on the tails of that, a minute later was Vintage Willow with the 5 season gaming memberships. Vintage, you're a legend as always. Thank you. Can't say it enough. So thank you. Rob Frawley with a member comment.
Rob Frawley II has been a member for 20 months and says best new factory game, Shapes 2, EA on Steam. It's early access on Steam.
Shapes
2.
Shapes 2, EA on Steam, a factory game. Anyone know about this one? I don't know anything about it.
I have not seen this one, but I do like logistics games. Your Factorios, you're making production chains and figuring out how to serve whatever the game requirement is. So I'll check it out. I assume EA means early access and not Electronic Arts.
Correct. Although
Yes.
on Steam it is called Advanced Access now, as we all know.
Did they change the name? I thought Steam invented early access as the name.
I think Concord was calling it Advanced Access.
No, Steam. Okay, so
Or not
actually,
Concord.
it
What game
probably is early access if the game isn't out yet. But the 3-day early period, Steam changed the name of that on Steam.
Advanced,
So
yeah, because we were talking about that the other night. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is not actually better, but yeah, it's fine.
Rick Davis, member comment.
Rick Davis has been a member for 15 months and writes, "Morning, enjoying Wukong and looking forward to Outlaws and Astrobot. And I
Yeah.
just started my copy of Skull and Bones.
Congratulations.
I think I like it. Hashtag Hogue was right." Side
And we
note,
follow. Go ahead.
I have reviewed that game and said it was a 7 out of 10 good. So I think Travis was also right. I just want to throw that out there.
I like Skull and Bones. Imagining that the success story for it is when Best Buy had to clear out their inventory warehouses at $10 a pop, and that's when people found that they enjoyed Skull and Bones somewhat.
Yeah, that's about right.
We got some Skull and Bones to talk about today, folks. Ains doesn't know it yet, but we do.
We do.
Believe
Get
me, we
excited.
don't.
We do indeed. There are dragons.
There are dragons. We already knew that. We're good. And Vintage follows up with this.
Vintage Willow, who's been a member for 15 months but clearly has not learned anything, writes, "Hogue is always right." Crazy because he is certainly not.
Nice of you to say, but I think I'm going to start a service for live service game developers that if they want their competitors to fail, they just pay me some money to like their competitors' games. So we'll talk about that too.
Yeah, we're going to get into that pretty soon, but thank you, Vintage again. All right, let's get into it. Oh, wait. Forgot Tide's picks, of course. So this week, Tide went with the superhero theme. And I want anyone in our chat and watching to tell me who Travis is supposed to be.
I think I'm Winter Soldier.
It's possible. I think you might be a man in the chair.
Man in the chair. Yeah, they would give me that. Okay, first of all, Hogue, what is happening? Why do you always look like not crazy? It's wild. I don't get it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You don't even have glasses.
I don't know.
A lot of people are saying Star-Lord for Travis.
Ains. Oh yeah, it could be Star-Lord.
Fonz called you Black Widow.
Ains, you look like a version of Captain America that is about to enter legal trouble for shutting off his body cam before fighting.
That's how I always look. They just put different skins on me.
Yeah, you look like Steve Rogers as he appeared on January 6th.
Oh god.
Yeah, and then maybe I am Star-Lord, which I'll take. That's cool. I'll take Pete.
Man, they got Season Gaming right again. I think they finally got it. They worked it out. But yeah, Hogue looks like he looks straight out of a comic book. To Travis' point, I don't know how they do it every week. But.
I don't know what to tell you. I'm just naturally handsome.
Wild, dude. It's
enough.
Offensive to me.
I'm also swole. That is a buff.
Yeah, also, how is AI going to depict me and remove the tie? Like that's the one thing I know, like that I've never appeared on camera without a tie. So what is the?
And yet I have the headset still, or earmuffs. Apparently, I don't quite know what I'm wearing, but
yeah. All right, you don't have ears.
Ty, thank you so much as always. All right, let's get into it. So, Hogue, I'm going to quickly shout out Acro. We mentioned this game, or I should say you mentioned this game last week. It's a small indie game. Developers came out this week, and they got a little it spread a little bit because they were basically saying that the reviews of the game have been excellent, very highly regarded, but sales have been very low, which, you know, we talk about here pretty often with smaller games like that. It's hard to kind of break through. So they were, you know, just asking for people to mention it or give it a look. And I happened to tell the developer, hey, we checked this out, or we mentioned it last week. Here's the clip, and they really appreciated that. So I don't know if you've played it anymore, but if you can, for people who may be watching this week who didn't watch last week, you want to give the 30-second spiel?
Sure. Acro is a lot of fun, first of all. It's an excellent game that doesn't cost very much. I think it was $15, but it might be even less on Steam. But it is a pixel-based game in which you take on a series of different characters, all with what I would characterize as a kind of Spanish background. I don't know whether they're from real historical elements or whether it's an entirely fictionalized kind of Spanish cowboys setup. But basically, you've got this gorgeous pixel world and a map that takes you to different locations. And you go and you do quests and things for people from these various towns and engage in turn-based action strategy battles, which remind me the most of, ironically or not ironically, just strangely, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So if you like Sparks of Hope, it's that kind of battle system, but it is really, really well done. It has a lot of depth to it, and it's gorgeous if you like pixel graphics at all.
And it's called Arco.
Arco.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I said Acro. Apologies. Arco.
Okay.
I typed it wrong. Yeah, so shout that one out, and best of luck to the developers, of course. I know that's got to be tough. You know, they basically made a comment. I saw some other indie developers commenting the same. It's like, you know, there's a lot of commentary around rehashing ideas, you know, people wanting new IPs, wanting new style of games, wanting new things like that. But it's really hard when you're a small developer. Everything you have for years have been put into one game, and then you give people that, and it gets reviewed well, but no one buys it. You know, I get it. You know, it's
Arco's kind of a hard sell because even the video trailer and some of the screenshots, you don't quite know what type of game it is. So with an indie game, it's easier to sell something that you can describe and people understand it really quickly. And Arco is kind of new. So I want to tell folks that it is well worth your time. It is not like super tricky. There are screenshots that'll show battles with lines and simultaneous turns and things like that. And you might think, oh, this could get really hard. It's not designed around kind of tricking you in puzzle combat. It is much more accessible than you might think. So give it a try. And yes, I was on social media too, Ains, when I saw some of the other indie developers kind of pick up on that note from the Arco developer. And I saw one from the developer of Cryptmaster, which is a game I mentioned months ago. And Cryptmaster is also a really weird game where you type out what you think is in a treasure chest in order to get what's in a treasure chest, and then you battle with trying to figure out what the actions are that your characters actually have the capability of doing. It's kind of a puzzle game with a AI character, the Cryptmaster, that is really, really inventive and fun. Very different game than Arco, but I highly recommend checking that out too.
Cool. That sounds unique. Yeah, I saw that as well, so thanks for shouting that out. All right, let's talk a little bit about, before we get to Concord, let's talk about Black Myth Wukong, because it has been the game. It's our cover picture for this week. It caused, or, you know, created, I should say, a lot of waves this week. The sales have been absurd. In 2 days, in less than 48 hours, it passed 10 million in sales. It shows no signs of slowing down. It's the most concurrent players ever for a single player game on Steam. In fact, I think its peak, it landed just a little bit behind PUBG at its peak. But it has, done extremely, extremely well. And so there's a couple aspects I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about the game itself. So I think I've mentioned multiple times, you know, since we saw this game a couple years ago for the first time, this has been a very hotly anticipated game for me. I really like the look of it. I wanted to play it from an action kind of boss rush style game. I think I'm just about 10 hours into it or so. I'm deep into chapter 2. So I'm still pretty early, mainly because I've been reviewing Concord and I've put a ridiculous amount of time into that game this week. But I'm really liking it with some, I think it has a couple shortcomings that, I'll call out as well. But I'm playing on PC. I'm playing it ultra wide. It is a stunning game on PC. If you're playing at max settings and everything, it's really, really beautiful. I haven't had any issues from a technical perspective. And so I'm not late enough in the game. I've heard it could be a little hiccupy later in the game, but I haven't had any issues so far. But I like the design of it. It's not a Souls-like. It is much more like an action game, boss rush. I kind of attribute it more to maybe an older Ninja Gaiden style, or Gaiden, however you want to say it, style game. It's if you die, you're not really losing anything. There's different things that you can do to kind of build out your character in a skill tree in various ways, and it is very boss rush heavy. One of the things that Hogan and I were talking about prior to starting is that the one thing, especially early on in the game, which is starting to improve in the second chapter, but the first chapter, which acts more of like a tutorial chapter, really, it feels a little repetitive. It's a little linear at first. The basic enemies are, the gap between a basic enemy and a boss is too wide. The normal enemies don't really train you or prepare you for the boss fights unless you play these games a lot like I do. So I think there's a gap there. And I would say now that I'm on the second level, which I actually prefer a lot because it's a lot bigger, a lot more exploration and secrets to uncover. The one thing that is clear this developer hasn't really figured out is that annoys the hell out of me is there's a lot of invisible walls. So there's a lot of places in the world where you can go that it's not clear you can go, but then there's other areas where it looks like you can go and you can't go. And so a lot of my time playing is kind of, you can tell this is a developer that hasn't figured that out, how to guide the player to the exact places you can do something and can't. Because a lot of my time is spent trying to get to an area and I'm jumping and I just hit a wall and I'm like, well, shit. Okay, so I can't go that way, even though it looks like a direct path. So then I've got to kind of figure out all these different places I can go and discover the secrets. So that annoys me a little bit. Say it again.
It's pretty easy to figure out where you can go. Just take out your compass, and if you're not traveling west, then you can't go that direction.
Oh boy.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's one of my annoyances. Like I said, some of the basic enemies are too basic and too repetitive. But I think those are really my kind of major qualms. I'm really, really liking it overall. It's got kind of that goofy sense of humor in a lot of places, as we were talking about with the voice acting earlier. Some of the boss battles and designs are unique so far. Like I said, I've still got a long way to go. I like the upgrade system for the most part. It's got different things you can kind of get into. I don't want to
really
ruin
onboard you very well. I will say that.
You figure it out yourself.
It took me hours to figure out that I had other stances to use, and it's like that's stated in one of the skills that you can buy, but it's not really obvious how to progress your character because there's multiple menus of skill trees, and they just let you go, which is fine.
Yeah.
I don't really hate that, but if you're getting kind of quasi-tutorialized, you're waiting for them to open up things because so many, especially Western games, essentially just lock out parts of the game until they tell you about them. And if you're using that, don't be. If you're playing Black Myth Wukong, basically the game is open to you from the start. You just have to figure out what it is that you want to do. And I'm playing on the PlayStation 5, so I am not going to call this game technically gorgeous, but it is functional. Yeah. I've
heard it's very different on the PS5. Yeah.
I do think that places like Digital Foundry tend to make mountains out of molehills. It is functional. It has a heavy dose of motion blur applied to it, so your mileage may vary on that. But for the most part, yeah.
Sorry, Ho, can you turn that off on PS5? Because I turned it off on PC.
You can turn it off, but I'm not sure you would want to. I think it's covering up some fluctuation.
Yeah, I got you.
So on PlayStation 5, I've described it as feeling a little gummy. It feels a little sticky, a little heavy in moving and animating your character. I don't love that, but it is pretty uniform, so you can kind of get used to it and incorporate it into your gameplay. So I've enjoyed Black Myth Wukong. I like this game quite a bit, primarily because it is different from other games. It doesn't feel like a Souls. It does feel like an action game. I don't think the curve up for someone like me from the enemies to the bosses is complete. As you suggested, Ames, you can just wail on the enemies, and then you get to a boss, and you're like, whoa, okay, I'm not ready for that. And because it's not using a Souls system, because it's just using kind of an experience system, really, it winds up being almost like a Dragon Quest or a JRPG where you can really grind these things, and you might have to in order to get enough sparks to get more abilities and more high levels of health and stamina for your character. So I have played through. You said you were about 10 hours in, and then you said I was well behind you. I'm probably 10 hours in. It's just for my skill level, I've wound up having to play like the first hills area a number of times in order to get more sparks and have a better chance against some of these enemies. But you've got really cool stuff. I really like, I've talked about this with respect to Konitsugami, exploring other cultures and the way that they make their games and tell these stories. This is a very kind of different story. I'm familiar with Journey to the West from other movies and media, but this seems like a much purer kind of approach to it than something like Enslaved. And I think it's fun to be in that area, and they have a codex and things where you've got poems and poetry and big, long, short stories about a basic enemy type that don't necessarily make a ton of sense until you really think about them. And it's weird, but I like weird.
I do too. And I think they do a good job in the cultural aspect, to your point. It's one of the things I wanted to talk about with the game. And we've talked about before is that as these countries like China, India, Korea really ramp up in their production in the global game market, right? I'm excited to see these types of things come to fruition more often. And I think Wukong does a really good job playing in that space, to your point. The stories that it tells. And in fact, no spoilers, of course, but at the end of the chapter, you actually get, which I didn't expect, you get a full 5-minute long animated storyboarded story. It's actually really quite cool that you can go back and watch when you want to too, because the chapters are actually set like book chapters. So when you advance past chapter 1, it basically asks you, are you ready to go to chapter 2? And then it puts you in a new area.
Before we talked, I had no idea I was in chapter 1, right? Because you say it's the first area, but I've technically been through 4 areas, but I'm still in chapter 1.
Yeah. So it seems to be a pretty decent sized game. I know Fonz was in the chat. I know he's late in the game, but like I said, chapter 2 is much, much bigger than 1. And I think there's either 5 or 6 chapters. So I'm looking forward to continuing with it, getting more time with it this week. But I've really enjoyed it. It does sound like the gap between the PS5 version and the PC version, if you're running on a high-end PC, is pretty drastic. So your experience may vary there. I would offer caution maybe a little bit, but I guess the other aspect of this game I wanted to talk about was just the sales. And I think, it's sold past 10 million. It seemed like that was going to continue just going nuts. And then, people looked at the sales data and it was something like 90+%, 92% were in China.
Sure.
And I believe it was, of course. And kind of a big market. So I think the analyst, someone may recall his name for me, the analyst on Twitter from China who works for the Nico Partners. You know what I'm talking about?
I do, but I can't remember his name either.
I'm sorry. People will know who I'm talking about. But anyway, he was basically giving his impression because he basically said in China, it's become a cultural thing over there for Wukong. Like it has broken through into the mainstream where they were advertising it with PlayStations. PlayStations, he said, are sold out over there right now. PS5s to play this game. They're selling it free, or they're giving it away free with new PCs. And it's just he says that's what's contributed to it taking off so strongly right out of the gate. So pretty interesting to see, but I think it's, if nothing else, I was looking at it, as a future indicator of just how big that market is and those markets. And, there's got to be a focus for the company. So kind of interesting that PlayStation seems to have successfully kind of jumped on this momentum behind this game in the market. Whereas, Xbox is sitting there right now from a console perspective, waiting 6 months or more. We don't have a release date yet as to when this game is going to hit the platform.
Well,
Daniel
I'm sure talk
thank
about
you,
Xbox a lot as part of this episode, but I do think it appears that Xbox has some kind of issue with the really higher end stuff in bringing it immediately over. And I can't speak to that. I'm not a technical engineer on these things, but Black Myth Wukong, I first remember being announced as connected with Xbox. And so when it got delayed for Xbox, I think Sony was smart to jump on the collaboration, but I I am not thrilled that it's not on all the platforms.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, so we'll see. But I know we talked about the reviews last week, so I think we covered it. But yeah, I'll talk more about that here in the coming weeks once I get, kind of through the whole game. But really, really enjoying it. It sounds like, and Hogue, feel free to say differently, but it sounds like on the PS5 side, it's like it's playable, but you may, if you're not like dying to play it, you may want to wait for a few patches maybe before you jump in.
Well, I think people should understand that I have a big issue with like frame rate inconsistencies and those kinds of things, and I really hate certain Switch games for that. This doesn't bother me that way. This is essentially using motion blur and kind of other technical means to create a sense of fluidity, which gives you that heaviness, that stickiness feeling when you're playing it, but it doesn't offend the senses when you're actually looking at it. It isn't gorgeous by any means, but I have a fairly high tolerance for stickiness and gumminess and playing games through like that. So I actually would say if you're interested in this, it is worth the $60 on PlayStation 5. I think they will improve it over time. And I think it's a good game that is interesting and does not have an immediate analog in the space. It isn't a Souls game. It isn't Stellar Blade. It is something newish, and it does have its own vibe that I think is well worth exploring. And now I'm excited about end of chapter movies.
Vibes.
So let's go.
Yeah, you'll like that. It's cool. What were you gonna say, Travis?
Oh, I was gonna say, I've not played this game, but obviously some people, lots of the reviewers who played on PS or PC also had tech issues. So, there's I'm probably like a wait on this one. Wait for them to get some of this the let out on that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. It's always hard to say because one thing I've talked about this before that annoys me in some of the discourse online is like, well, just play it on PC. It's awesome on PC, and it's like that doesn't. You know what I mean? It depends on the type of PC you have. It's so easy to say it runs great on PC when that may not be the case. It all depends on your PC and configuration and a number.
Also, even if you have identical PCs as somebody else, like people have different experiences. Like you
100%.
also didn't have tech issues on Cyberpunk 2077. Neither did the IGN reviewer, but like lots of other people did. And that's just, not all bugs are going to happen to you or tech issues, but like I know enough people who've played the game on PC, which is probably where I'll play it, who have had issues, and I just don't want to roll those dice. So I'm just going to wait. I got no incentive to play now.
Yeah. But anyway, that's Wukong. So why don't we jump over and talk a little bit about but a controversial game this week, and maybe before this week, Concord. So
it did not sell 10 million as best as we can tell.
It has not sold 10 million. Yeah, it's from what the data shows. So Concord has launched this week. It launched Tuesday for the deluxe edition, Friday for the regular edition on Steam and PS5. This is the 5v5 kind of hero shooter, if you will, from Firewalk Studios. We've talked a little bit about this leading up to it in the beta, so we won't rehash all that. But the three of us are playing it. I know Travis and I are reviewing it. My review will be going up either tomorrow or Tuesday. I know, Travis, you have your review in progress already up, I believe. And each of us, I've put an insane amount of time into this game this week. Travis is up there with me, and I know Hogue's put a decent amount as well. So we can talk about this quite a bit, but I'll get us going by saying, and I have a lot to say about Concord, so we try not to take too long on this game, but I was impressed by the beta. I was not interested in this game when I first saw it. And then when I continued to see it, I was like, well, maybe it's got some, pedigree to it. For me personally, as a competitive shooter guy, and we talk all the time about me playing a lot of shooters and competitive games, what matters to me is the gunplay, how it feels to play, the engagements, outplayability, and the mechanics. And I think that's where Concord really, really is well designed. It feels good to play. Feels excellent to play, honestly. The gunplay is really good. The teamwork is really good. Some of the dynamics of the characters is really strong, or are really strong. And I think, sadly, what we're seeing, right, is for multitude of reasons, the discourse around this game, at least on the social media space and in the gamerverse, if you will, has been largely negative. And I don't know about you guys. I think we're pretty similar on this, but when you just sit down, wade through the nonsense, and play this game, I have been wildly addicted to this game this week. Literally every day, I just want to play more Concord, and I'm really tired this morning because I've gotten very little sleep this week because I've been up every single night playing Concord late. So I'll stop there for now. We'll get into a few other things, but Travis, why don't you touch on your review and progress and where you are with it?
Yeah, I'm not as in love with it as you are. I think the gameplay is really good, which is awesome. I just think it lacks something to set it apart from every other hero shooter I've ever played. It feels pretty generic in that regard. I think the way the story is being delivered is very poor and unfortunate. Getting one cutscene a week, and at this point we've got 0 new cutscenes since the beta, is just it's not enough meat on the bones for me to keep playing, and the Galactic guide doesn't really do the job there. And then also I'm really surprised by how few game modes there are. I think in the beta we had 4, and in the full version we have 6. And I guess I was just kind of expecting a little bit more. So, from the beta to the full game, we had all 16 characters. We've had some new maps, which admittedly I would say probably maps are the part I'm most impressed with. I think the maps are really good, aside from the combat. Good. But it's one of those games where like the bones are really good, but I think they're going to have to build on it for it to stand out. And of course, the question is, will they double down on the game and give it the attention that it needs to get it to that level where people are interested in playing it more? Because I think it needs a lot of love. But live service games, there's always that chance that they'll go the other way, and that instead of developing it, it'll just die before it even has a chance. But I really like the foundation. Like, I think the bones are really good. I think the gameplay is great. I think the characters are really interesting. I want to know more about them, but I just, I don't think the Galactic Guide is a good answer to people who want to know more about them. I would love to have more stuff in game that actually addresses that. And then I think the game modes situation is just like, I play that game for 3 or 4 hour bursts, and by the end of the 4th hour I'm like, okay, I've played like this enough. I'm getting burned out on it a little bit, but that said, usually by the next night, I log back on, and I've kind of restored my desire to play it. So I don't think by any stretch of the imagination it's a bad game, and I also don't think it's warranted the online hate that it's getting. But I will say, I think most of the discourse online has been about how everybody thinks the game's not going to sell well, versus whether or not it was a good game or not. Like, that's just been a lot of I haven't really heard anybody be like, this game is bad. I've just heard people being like, this game isn't going to sell well. And then when it didn't sell well, we're like, look how badly the game's doing, rather than like, hey, is it good though? Like, should we be playing it? So it just seems like a very weird angle for the internet to take. But I mean, I'm going to answer the question of if it's good or not. I don't really care how it's selling.
So yeah, me too. Agreed.
And I don't know that we can really tell. I know everybody's using the Steam numbers. I can say, and maybe you can say, Ains and Travis, I have not personally had much of an issue with matchmaking in the game as of yet.
Not at all.
The longest I've gone is a couple minutes. And so I don't know what was purchased on the Sony PlayStation side. I don't know what the numbers of actual live players are. I know it's certainly not got or isn't showing on the Steam database what you would want for a game of this type, but I'm not seeing like what I was seeing when Battleborn died, right? Like I was interested in playing Battleborn matches, and I would just leave it there for half hour and nothing would happen.
I'll just say, like, there's a difference between when Battleborn died and when Concord launched. I'll say for a launch, the wait times are too long. For a launch game, it should be like 1 second, right? If it came out that day.
Right. And it's not 1 second.
Yeah, and I when you go to Rival, or was it Rivals or Rivalry?
Rivalry.
The competitive mode. Rivalry. That one I've had like 7-minute wait times before.
That was only in advanced access for me. We've played Rivalry nonstop.
Yesterday I had it.
I haven't taken over 60 seconds to find Rivalry the past couple days.
Yeah, so
that's one area where I think the Galactic Guide is super useful, actually, because you can set it to ask for a Rivalry game, and the reason that those are longer, folks, is that they have a level requirement before you can access that playlist. So people that are brand new to the game can't use that playlist at all. So yeah, the Galactic Guide, I'm going to disagree with Travis on a little bit. Once I figured out that you got more Galactic Guide entries for leveling up your characters, I thought it was a really good idea. And I think you get a lot of additional background on the characters through that system. I like the Galactic Guide a lot. I agree that I wish I got a new cutscene that wasn't used in the beta, but I was also happy that they gave us the cutscenes in the beta, so I'm not going to grouse about that too much. I expect next week's will be the second beta cutscene, in fact. But I like that. I like the characters. I like the backgrounds we're getting. I understand folks not liking the character designs, but I think the most important aspect of Concord is that the gunplay feels good, is that it's aesthetically pleasing in the levels. The levels are well designed. And I actually really like some of their quote-unquote big ideas that people don't give them enough credit for online, I don't think. I think the passive boosts for the different character types wind up with you having your own strategy as well as kind of trying to mirror the strategy of the other team when you're picking your players. And so you wind up getting this kind of cascade of players that you have as your own personal team that you're setting up so that you get mobility before you bring out the tank character, or you get longer range and less recoil before you bring out the guy that uses the pistols and those kinds of things, as well as the deployables, right? This is an idea that I haven't seen before, and maybe Ains and Travis, you play more of these games, you can tell me if they've been out there before, but these characters can put things on the play field that help and hurt their own team or their other team, and they will stay there for different rounds. So you can have a character that puts down fungus that helps aid your team and hurt the other team. And 3 characters later, when you're now the tank that's using a different power set, you can still remember where your fungus is and where you can go to get additional mobility and damage resistance. And I think there's a lot of strategy there that I haven't seen before personally in a game that I really enjoy playing. So I think Concord is a lot of fun. I think that the toxicity online is problematic because you're always going to speak out against things that are new. If you wind up just saying, oh, it's not going to sell well. Yes, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If everybody just says it's not going to sell well and I'm not going to buy it. But I can't convince people of that. And I can tell you, I put out a couple of tweets that said I was really enjoying Concord, and like the level of negativity there might as well have been a political tweet. It might as well have been something more important. And I don't know where that comes from. I think some of it is the character design, which I tend to like, but certainly triggers people in a certain way. And
just say it. Just say the people it triggers. You know.
It triggers certain people in a certain way. And I have another game that I'm going to talk about in just a minute that's worse on that score on social media that I want to talk about. But I like it.
It triggers the people who followed the January 6th Captain America to the Capitol, I think, right?
Hey. Yeah.
Why are we bringing politics into this conversation?
Because it's political. I mean, that's the thing you're dancing around, but it is political, right? That's why people are upset.
I think a subsection maybe, yeah. But
okay.
I think they don't like some of the character design.
Why, Hogue? Why don't they like it? That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, you're dancing around the big, like, why, which we know why. I don't know why we're playing coy here. I mean, look, I'm not saying, you know, one way or another, but I'm just saying that's why. That's the reason. It's
well,
political.
and to continue the conversation, I think to Hogue's point too. For me, and we were talking about this before the show, like, maybe this is just me, and I'm sure I'm in the minority here, but I don't care. I don't care about the character design.
It's a first-person shooter, folks.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me. How does it play?
They have really good silhouettes that work very well in-game.
That's it. Yeah. Show me their abilities and how the abilities function in the game and how the shooting mechanics are. And I will tell this because I know a lot of people, it's kind of hard to make this type of game and not mention Overwatch, right? It's always the comparison. And so a lot of people have, you know, kind of thrown it off as an Overwatch clone or Overwatch wannabe or whatever word you want to throw out there. Again, I don't care. How does this game play? And in my opinion, and at least some of the people I've played with every night who play shooters a lot, the shooting mechanics in this game are better than Overwatch. I'll go to die on that.
I think it feels better than Overwatch. I do.
I'm not saying the character designs are as endearing maybe to people. Overwatch has obviously been out a long time now. There's a whole community there for those characters and everything else. So I'm not the expert in that space. I'm just talking about how the game feels to play. From a 5-on-5 shooter perspective, it feels great. And you can tell that there's pedigree there on the development team. So that's really all I care about. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. I agree with Travis that it does feel a little bare bonesy right now, which is pretty typical of games in this space. However, I don't want to give them a pass for the sense of season. So right now, if you play the game, it says season 0, right? This is kind of the lead up, the warm up, and there is quite a lot for your money in terms of unlockables and character progression and stuff. However, I think waiting till October, about a month, 6 weeks or so post release to start season 1 is too long. I think season 0 should have been maybe 2 weeks tops, and then you get into season 1 sooner and start to add that additional content. So to your point, Travis, I really do hope that that there is a long-term vision. I think that's everyone's question right now. If the game is selling as poorly as some of the numbers indicate, which most signs are pointing to, it's not doing great.
Because there are PlayStation numbers too that don't look good.
It's not super high on the PlayStation bestsellers list. It's way down there, same thing. And this is a first-party game. It's advertised on PSN at homepage and everything. So anyway, being a first-party game, Firewalk Studios acquired last year by PlayStation. They'd been working on this game a long time, and you can tell they've been working on it a long time. A lot of it is extremely polished. That's what I like about it.
A very polished game.
Very. But what is, to your point, what is the length of the leash from PlayStation with this game? I think that's what I'm most curious about right now. I'm most fearful for this game as a game I enjoy, to Hoag's commentary with live service game. I wish Hoag hated it. I wish Hoag hated it, because then I'd feel better about its future, but
that's the difference between Skull and Bones is that we know Ubisoft has a tendency to give a lot of resources and let these things live or die for a long time. And Sony is trying to get in a live service game. This is perhaps their first major kind of failure at launch. And we don't know what their reaction is going to be to that. I don't think, Travis, you're making a face. Has Sony had another crack at this?
They've done not fully first party, but heavily invested exclusive third party games that were live service. And they basically have a mixed history. Sometimes they've stuck with them and sometimes they've just shut them down real quick, Google style, so I don't know that that gives us any additional data, but they have a history of doing kind of both with their live service stuff. So here's my theory is that I think they're going to stick with this one because they knew this game was going to sell poorly before it launched, right? And they had a chance to save their change their messaging, and they didn't. They've put out video documentaries and interviews with the developers talking about the future of the game. And so I think that they just are like, look, we invested, our team's already set up for live service, this stuff's going to happen, and maybe they have a date down the road, like a year and a half or whatever, to where they're going to give up. But I think they're viewing it as hey, Fallout 76 did it and their game was terrible at launch, we're not that bad, so we have a chance of bouncing back, which is the attitude to have, right? Believe in your product and your teams and give them the resources they need to succeed, even if they have to prove it out. Because I do think that there are a lot of tribal reasons why people are not liking this game, and it's not for me to decide whether or not you're right or wrong in that. But and it's partly the politics and identity thing, which some people are really divided over. It's also partly this whole tribal, you're only allowed to one game in each genre. Destiny players do this sometimes, where they try to hate on other looter shooters because they see them as a threat. I think there are lots of Overwatch players that look at this and go, well, this is a threat to that Overwatch game I love, and therefore I've got to be team Overwatch by hating this game. And so I think there's just a lot of things that they have to break through, and they have to earn players' trust. And maybe this was never going to be a success at launch, and maybe Sony had the wisdom to understand that, and they're giving their team a chance to prove it to the audience. And I think sometimes that's the path you've got to take. So I wish them the best of luck. For now, I think it's a good game, and I'm playing it.
I think they're a very gifted team.
Yeah, they're very clearly gifted at shooting mechanics. They know what they're doing.
Yes, they do.
And I do. By the way, I do agree the gunplay is better than Overwatch. I don't think it's really.
It is.
Close.
Yeah, no, I'll take that argument all day long. And that's all I care about. I think it was Plague said, because I'm saying I don't care about the characters is a subtle hint that I don't like them. And it's like, no, I really don't. I just don't care. That's not what I play these games for. I didn't care about them in Overwatch. I don't care about them in Apex. I don't care about them in X Defiant because X Defiant is trying to do something similar. It's about how the game feels to play, and it feels fantastic to play.
I like the
characters. I do care about the characters, and that is one of my nitpicks. I just wish they would flesh them out because right now they seem like really vacant.
It's clear that they want people to care about them.
Yeah,
you know
they do.
I mean? I don't, but it's clear they want people to because I think again, Overwatch not trying to compare 1-to-1, but Blizzard did that well, right? They made people care about the Overwatch characters.
Well, and I would even have criticized Overwatch's job at that because I think they did a
early on for sure
telling that story too.
Yeah, and they only ever put like movies out that never were properly incorporated, and they would just have relationships mentioned in kind of offhanded comments. I think this is doing that better. I am not positive I would have put the early biographical information about the characters behind a couple levels. Like everybody gets a big blowout description of who they are when you get them to level 3, which is good in terms of I like to go after lore. It's one of my favorite kind of rewards on these things. But it's bad because you don't necessarily get a feel for everybody very early on. But I do think it's in there, and I do think the Galactic Guide is interesting and cool. It's also a good kind of time suck if you are having a longer matchmaking process. It is a goofy universe. It's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy type of universe, and I think they've got a lot of interesting thoughts there that are clearly going to lead to a bigger story over the long run, if they get that long run. And I hope they do. They're a talented studio. But if you don't want to try it, I can't change your mind on that. I do think that it is worth your time, but I know a number of people are essentially trying to wait out the failure because they think it'll be on PlayStation Plus at some point.
Or free to play. Yeah, which...
Well, I mean, I think they view that the same, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of fair. Yeah, so just I'd say 2 more things on it, right? Like, obviously, there's going to be people, non-disingenuous people who have played it and just don't like it. Yeah, obviously, it's perfectly fair. I mean, everyone, that goes without saying, right? But I just, as someone who has gamed for so long, and not saying us, like especially our community, you know what we do here, but as someone who's gamed for so long and you see games like this that obviously have a lot of time and love put into them, just continually get trashed and people pile on. I don't like the pile on attitude for no reason. Do you know what I mean? And the vast majority of these people I see piling on, at least in the social media space, which is not real life.
It is not.
But
not a real place.
But it's like you haven't even played it. You just decided, oh, here's something to pile on, and now you're ganging up on it. I just hate that attitude. I'm so exhausted with that.
I really do think it's Overwatch stands that just are, they're standing their ground. And
Overwatch 1 isn't coming back, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, oh, they're worried because this is an Overwatch killer. I was like, Overwatch killer? Overwatch committed suicide. We watched that happen.
I will say, Travis,
you don't need an Overwatch killer.
I will say, Travis, it sounds like I have disagreed with you on your points, that I do fully agree with you on the modes. I would have liked to have seen modes that weren't kind of direct copy paste off of Call of Duty or Overwatch modes.
Yeah.
I think they need a couple of more kind of inventive modes, and hopefully those are coming as part of the season.
I also think they need a signature mode. I feel like this one is lacking kind of a signature mode. I think they're partway there with the rivalry mode because I love the mechanics.
I was gonna say the same thing.
But I feel like it's missing something.
They need the actual game for the rivalry idea. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I thought one of those modes was going to be like the equivalent of I don't know. Apologies for falling short on my expertise here. The Overwatch mode where you go with a car.
Oh God, not escort.
Yeah. Escort, yeah.
The one where you go with the car is the Overwatch.
I hate that mode.
But I don't think they should do that. But to
no, not that mode.
That is a very obvious thing, and I think rivalry has a good structure, but you can't explain a structure to a prospective player of oh, it's cool they make you change characters, because you can't show that. And so they need to show characters doing something that is unique, that isn't just a defend a zone thing and then draw people in. And then when you find out how rivalry mode works, then you're like, oh, that's awesome. But I just don't think they have that yet. They're just missing something. And the 4 modes you play before that are just the most carbon copy,
They're just shooter modes.
Yeah, they're just shooter modes.
Well, I like a team deathmatch.
I mean, they're really fun, but they're not unique by any stretch.
They're not unique at all.
Yeah.
And I get that. I agree fully with that criticism.
So do I.
They need a few more modes that are their own.
Yeah. Rivalry. So for the people who haven't played it, there's 3 playlists. Each have 2 modes. The one we're talking about, Rivalry, is a no respawn mode. So think of it, and you have to win best of 7. So you have to win 4 rounds. The rounds are short, but you have to win 4 to win. And it's really fun because what it makes you do is when you win a round, you can't use that same character again. So it forces your team to coordinate, use different skills, use different characters. It's really well designed. But the 2 game modes you play within Rivalry playlist are pretty generic. That's what we're referring to. So I completely agree with you guys. I'm hoping that by, they've put out their roadmap of season 1, season 2 already, and the timeline for that. I hope we start to see some more development in that space. So
yeah, it looks like a new character per season, a new mode every other season, something like that. And that's a good time frame in my opinion. But I want to see Sony kind of stand him up for a little while to make sure that it's going to survive. I don't have any idea whether it will. I know that I have enjoyed my 43 some odd matches this week that I've gotten to play it, even though I'm 18 and 22 or something like that. And I wish I were better at the game, folks, but I do want to at least send the message that you don't have to be good at this game to have fun with it. I got the chance to play with Alex at Season Gaming a little bit yesterday, and we won one match and we got utterly destroyed in another match. We still had fun. So I enjoy a game where you can still have fun getting your butt beat. And unfortunately, I get that opportunity to judge that particular factor more often than some.
Yeah, it is a very, 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 and I write this in my review, team-based shooter. We had a full squad of 5 the other day, and we knew, we had our abilities balanced out, and we knew kind of the pathing and this group together and team shoot. Yeah, we won Trophy Hunt 30-2. Like, I mean, it's not, if you're playing with a proper team and using the tanks and the healing abilities and shooting together, that's how you have to play this game.
I love Mori.
We had like 5 matches in a row where it was the control zone and we were doing 125-0.
Yeah, you're just wrecking them.
Just completely flattening the other team and laughing about it.
This has never been my experience, but I've almost all been fun.
Oh, we got to play together. I know you go to bed at 2 p.m. East Coast.
But Hoag's an early bird, folks.
I do go to bed earlier after my stroke, for God's sakes.
Okay. Well, how long are we going to have to hear that excuse? Oh, jeez, Louise. Like, get over it, man. Your brain turns off one time, and it's like...
As it turns out, sleep is important to maintaining the physical presence. So I'm not going to change it just because I'm enjoying a video game.
Whatever.
Fair enough.
Get over yourself,
The last thing I'll say on this, just to close out Concord, I forgot to mention the $40 versus free to play. Personally, and I've said this before, I like the approach. I like that it's a paid game and that you kind of get the content. They said they're not coming out with a battle pass for this. If you play the game, you have character progression per character. So there's 16 characters, but then you have a profile progression as well, which is kind of like a mini battle pass almost. Every time you level up, you get something, to unlock. And they said all the modes and maps and stuff that's coming in the seasons is free as well. The only thing they're adding is a premium cosmetic store.
Yeah, they're going to add a store. You can tell where it goes. It's still a black box.
Yeah, it's still a black box. But
I will say, I find it very funny that all of the people who constantly complain about free-to-play live service games and season passes and microtransactions and all that are now looking at Concord and being like, "Oh, it's not free to play.
Oh, it's $40
game."
Yeah, I know.
It's like, bro, you guys never happy. You can't do it.
Yeah, I like it. Like I said, while I appreciate the market to free to play, I think we all understand that, right? And the
accessibility is important. Yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot of drawbacks of free to play too, which we've covered ad nauseum on here. So I like their approach. Again, maybe it seems like I'm in the minority, but
you are probably old manning it here.
I am. I know.
But I just find it funny that I'm seeing a lot of the same people who are like you and old man and complain about free to play are now on the other side going, wow, how they expect to compete without being free to play. And I'm like, bro,
it's a fact of the market. I mean, it's just
the two things people ask for: let me just buy the game outright. Don't give me microtransactions, and please give me new IP. Both of those camps are MIA on this game. They're nowhere to be found. So it's just so funny. Where are your people?
So I always use my son as a reference here, right? 19 years old. He comes down the other night and I show it to him as we're playing when you were in the party, Travis. That's what I think when I remember I went on mute for like an hour. So he was standing, he was literally standing here just watching. We played like 4 matches and he was just watching.
My daughter really likes watching this one. She says it's fun to watch.
Yeah, my son plays a lot of League of Legends. He plays with his friends like every night. And I was like, you guys gonna maybe check this out? And first question he asked, how much is it? And I said, it's a $40 game. He goes, my friends won't buy it. And that's just, that's the conversation. So,
I mean, I think they do need some sort of solution there. I mean, this should have been like a PlayStation subscription plus game, gold or whatever. Like there should have been some way to get people in here, because I do feel like if it dies, it'll be because they did make their game accessible enough, regardless of the model.
Yeah. It's possible. The companies don't always get the model right. And certainly the market has been set at free-to-play and microtransactions and Battle Pass. So they knew they were trying to zig into the market. They thought that the value proposition was good enough because of the polish, because of how it looks, I think. And they may well be wrong. Companies make mistakes all the time.
I'm wondering how much being PlayStation first party played in that decision. I don't think we'll ever know, but I'm just curious to think if they thought they could use that kind of marketing power and being forefront of PlayStation to kind of overcome that hump. But I don't know.
Yeah, I hope it succeeds. I'm enjoying it a lot. I'm playing the heck out of it. Maybe because I'm worried that I won't have the chance later on. But I am playing it a lot, even if it's not at the times that Ains and Travis are playing, because every time they've invited me to play, I've had to say I'm going to bed in like 2 minutes.
He's like, I'm going to bed. I'm like, I'm gonna hop on to start in 30 minutes. So
he has the sleep schedule of Fox News viewers. 2 p.m. dinner.
Travis just coming today. All right, let's catch up.
One DNC and he comes in at the whole politics broadcast.
Let's catch up on super chats. We'll wrap up Concord. We have some super chats around Concord too, so let's get to this. Cookie Monster Steve with a member comment.
Cookie Monster Steve, member for 24 months.
Steve. On Steve.
Oh, Cookie Mon Steve. Okay, you're right.
Yeah. He's legally compliant. He's a monster.
Because he's not a monster. He's Mon Steve. Cookie Mon Steve. A guy named Steve who eats cookies writes, member for 14 months, hashtag shrimp fried rice.
Shrimp fried rice.
That's going back.
I can't remember.
Which is a reference to me making a comment in a video about how easy it is to get something trending if you really want it trending.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yep. It's a good one. It's a good callback. Thank you. Don, I've been playing Concord with Don all week.
Don Lionheart. Oh, yeah, I played with him as well. Don Lionheart gives us $5 and writes, Morning Bitcast. Concord has been a ton of fun. Travis, you abandoned us when you got fast internet. Oh, you sleep way too early. Ains, you're cool. Yeah, I was playing out of a hotel room. I was playing out of a hotel room for the first half of the week, and I was able to play with Ains more because I was in the East Coast time zone. But when I got back to California time zone, all of a sudden my IGN crew was like, "Yo, we're on, let's play." And I've been playing with them.
He abandoned us for IGN.
So I did abandon you for my IGN Cali.
He sold out.
That's right.
To the big corporation.
The whole company except you was in Germany based on the videos.
Yeah, that is also true. But I think I don't know. The people I'm playing with, they're in my time zone. So.
Nice. Don, thank you. Mr. Elu Spook.
Elu Spook offers a wrench and $5 to write. Concord has the best shooting mechanics in any game apart from Halo and Destiny. It's so fun to play.
It is.
High praise.
If you're interested.
I think Apex is up there too, but I generally agree with them. The shooting mechanics are excellent.
They are really good. Apex is also good.
Yeah. But I mean, those are the pillars, right? When you have conversations, Call of Duty, really good mechanics, different type of game, right? Call of Duty is a very point and shoot type game. But it's those are the kings. So it's up there. Elu, thank you, my friend. Random name, who I also play Concord with this week. Random_name
gives $4.99 and writes, objection. object? No, I think that's a missing emoji. Is it just?
I think it is because it's not even showing on YouTube. That's funny.
A missing emoji. I have been enjoying Concord, but as you are discussing, I am concerned about the numbers.
Yeah.
I feel like they should have gone free to play or PS Plus.
Yeah,
that might have been the right call.
They should have.
It's a shame because
if they went PS Plus, their own players would know how to spell their game.
Hey, maybe
Don't
he's
feel
talking
bad,
about
random
the
name.
Sonic Jet.
I did the same thing, and I still do it sometimes with the E on the end.
I know
but yeah.
that's a marketing problem. Is my point. I'm not blaming you guys. I'm saying PlayStation has so utterly failed to market their game. People don't even know how to spell their game when they are players. That's a problem. That is failed to market.
I have a theory that it was originally called Free Gunners and was going to be free, and they changed the approach.
Interesting. Free Gunners. Yeah. I could see that.
I love how little basis it's based off of.
Oh, it's completely speculative. But
I love that.
Free Gunners is said a lot in the game.
They said a lot. Do you think it was like maybe a copyright thing, or do you think when they decided it wasn't free to play,
business model, you don't want free in the title? Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, random name. Thank you, my friend. He's a real life fake wizard, and he's here.
Real life fake wizard gives me $1.99 and writes, "How will Star Wars Outlaws do now? Lots of games out now. ... Which I
real
believe...
life fake wizard is our friend David, who is our
he is
game master at Lawyers and Dragons. Travis has played
that guy.
How we doing, Dave?
Dragons with
He's
him.
he's a top lad.
It's a real life fake wizard. Yes.
Nice.
How will Star Wars Outlaws do now? Well, I am hopeful for it. I only recently found out that 40% of the content or planets is from the Disney Star Wars universe, so that takes me down a notch, but I'm excited about it.
Don't get Travis started. I think it's going to do extremely well. Just looking at kind of the SEO stuff on it, looking at the metrics around the interest in Outlaws, I think it's going to do extremely well for Ubisoft.
I'm looking forward to it. I am very pumped about it coming out this week.
Sorry, Hogue. I was going to say the embargo for reviews, by the way, is literally tomorrow morning. So as you're listening to this live, it's the 26th. So Alex is reviewing that for us. Do you know who's reviewing it for IGN, Travis?
Dan Stapleton.
Stapleton. Oh. Okay. So we'll see the thoughts from everyone tomorrow morning. Obviously can't talk about it at the moment, but yeah, we'll have coverage on it. Obviously IGN will have coverage on it, but we'll be talking a lot more about that game next week.
That game.
When did you play it, Travis?
He's playing it now. I played it at SGF, but only a demo. So yeah.
I got a copy sent to me by a very kind soul, and I have been playing it. And that's all I can tell you.
That's all you can say.
Well, don't say anything else. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I like UB games in general, and I like Star Wars. I just didn't know that Ubisoft, presumably under the direction of Disney, had said, you know what people really want to explore? Canto Bight and Kajimi.
I don't even know what those are. So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Dave. Vault Boy 50s became a YouTube member. Thank you, Vault Boy. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. And Adam unfriended somebody. Not going to tell us who, but he's here.
Adam unfriended. No, I think he has been unfriended. I think it's like, reloaded or whatever. It's like Adam unfriended.
I think that's right.
Gives $10 and writes, "My problem with Concord." I don't know what the
he's just spelling it correctly.
Okay. My problem with Concord spelled correctly is that it just looks too generic and photorealistic, which doesn't really grab me. The character design is okay, but the characters all feel the same and don't stand out.
The characters have some really cool facial animation tech on them. I don't know what it is. They have a look that is higher level than a lot of other video games that I've played, but it does mean that they tend to look like the Guardians of the Galaxy characters that are in like face paint or a different color. So your mileage may vary on that as well. But I think once you get used to it, I think Lennox, I think Itzy, I think there are some strong designs in there.
Yeah, there's definitely some odd ones, right? That's probably by design again. But I think what they do well, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think what they do well is really the different play styles and abilities that they each have and how they complement each other. That's what I really like about it.
Well, they have really strange abilities in there.
I think the problem is that they haven't really had enough time to showcase the characters or how they stand out, because I do believe that they have cool personalities and ways that they could express themselves, but we don't have really any cutscenes to draw from, and I think the storytelling in the game is woefully lacking. They just haven't had the time, and maybe they will, 4 weeks from now, but I think they will no longer really have momentum on their side by that point, and that's what worries me. I trust that the characters are going to be cool. I just don't think that they've done a good job showcasing that. Galactic Guide with text entries explaining the characters is not the way you get people to love your characters.
Yeah, very fair. By the way, Rob asked what platform we're playing on. So I'm playing on PC, primarily because I was doing the review, so it's easier to capture. But also, I've actually been playing it on my ultra wide on PC, which is really nice. It is extremely well polished, at least for me. I've had zero issues with Concord. It plays very, very well.
I've played it on a very expensive gaming PC, a gaming laptop in a hotel room, and my PS5. And all of those experiences have been pretty good, minus hotel room Wi-Fi, which was pretty hard. But,
I played the betas on PS5, and it was great.
PlayStation 5 for me.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you all. Tide asked me when the review of the wedding. I apologize. Concord has taken most of my time this week, so it is still coming. I promise. Just bear with me on it.
Let's just hope his memory. He might,
I've got it.
All right.
I've got notes. Yep.
Saying you can't really refresh yourself on a wedding. You can't go back and boot it back up to see if it's still.
That's true. Yeah. That's very true. All right.
So on wedding reviews.
I know we're going to get to Gamescom here shortly. Any other games you guys wanted to mention? I know, Hogue, you said you had a couple things you wanted to touch on really quick.
I do. I know we've got a lot of Gamescom to talk about.
Hogue's notes. Here's some quick-ass Hogue's notes.
Let's hope. I like it. So before I get into this game, I've got a story to tell, right? Because we're doing quick things. But one of my favorite games,
I've got a story to tell because we're doing quick things.
With a story. Jeez,
one of my favorite game stories ever was in an adventure game in the 90s called The Longest Journey, which maybe nobody remembers. But it was a game called The Longest Journey. It was written by a Viking named Ragnar Tornquist. And he did it for a company called Funcom, which still exists and primarily makes multiplayer games now.
I remember Funcom, yeah.
But he later made a game called Dreamfall Chapters. Well, Dreamfall originally came out on like the Xbox, I want to say, and was a sequel to The Longest Journey, but ended on a cliffhanger and never got to be finished by Funcom because Funcom didn't want to pay for it anymore. So he went out and started his own company called Red Thread Games, and he did some of the earliest Kickstarter gaming stuff that I can remember in making a game called Dreamfall Chapters, which concluded the Longest Journey Dreamfall saga. And then Red Thread Games made a number of other games and found publisher partners and went about its business. But they made a game that came out this week that has gotten a lot of attention on social media for some of the same reasons that we've talked about with respect to Concord, called Dustborn. And as a lover of narrative and adventure games, I thought I will try this out because it showed in its videos that you could make a number of different character choices, and they're making a comic book about how your choices affect everybody in the story. And it also looked like a game that I really enjoy called Road 96, which is an adventure story about kind of going across an authoritarian country to try to escape into what amounts to Canada. And in this case, you're crossing over what I think they call the Republic of America in order to get to free Nova Scotia and things like this. This is a set of events that certain storytellers like to use. And it has gotten a lot of attention online for ostensibly being too political / too progressive as part of its stance. I have always said that if you can build your world to make sense to me and keep your story within that world, I don't really care what your overall narrative or politics are, but it certainly has a view of America and speech and things that is going to rub some people the wrong way. I can't honestly fully recommend it because it is so very, very political. It just is. But on a storytelling basis, it's essentially kind of a New Mutants type story where people have magical powers and are being hunted down by various authoritarian governments and powers and trying to escape across a country that is hunting them down. And it's a well-told story. Mr. Tornquist is, in my opinion, one of the better storytellers in video gaming history, and whose name should probably be remembered along with some of the other big time names in video gaming. But Dustborn is getting a lot of crap online for being too political, and it is too political. I can't recommend it on that fact because it might rub you the wrong way, but it is a good story with good characters and characterization, as well as being very political at the same time.
I'll never understand why people don't like political stories, but that's just me.
I was going to ask, is it? Yeah, that's a tough one to cover, in the sense of, is it too political because you don't agree with the politics, or is it too political, which therefore comes across as ruining the interactions regardless of your viewpoints? I don't know if that makes sense.
It's too political from my perspective because it takes the story that it's telling and then injects real world politics over the top of it and into your face.
Like actual real topics, or
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Like book bans and informational authoritarianism, and the direction that I would argue that probably Mr. Tornquist and his company feels like America is going. Now, he's not from around here. So you also get some of that same feel of people commenting on America from afar, like you get with Rockstar and others. But it is very, very political. I just want to, I want people to know that before they jump in. But it is an interesting game, and certainly the way they tell the story is interesting. You get a lot of kind of ability to control your camera angle for big, long dialogue sequences, which I think is smart, and I haven't seen in these big kind of visual novel type games before. The action is probably a mistake. It's a very simple action system where you hit people with a bat, essentially, and they, yeah, I mean, it's essentially
also a political statement.
Well, I can't say that it's not, but you hit people with a bat. It's a very simplified action game. I probably would have had it be a turn-based party game because primarily the superpowers that you have are that your words can cause people to do things. Like you can, some of your options are to block out people and make them stop thinking whatever they're thinking, or to trigger people to make them angry. And that kind of thing pops up, including that language. I think the actual power is called trigger. And it's very over the top. I like kind of dystopian speculative fiction. I like thinking about how things can go wrong. Cyberpunk 2077 is political in its own way on this score, but it doesn't exactly graft onto our modern political movement as well as Dustborn does. So I think that's the problem that Dustborn primarily has. But I did want to mention that this is one of my favorite writers and storytellers in the medium, and I expect the game to play out in a way that's interesting at the end. But it does have a lot to take on if you don't want to discuss modern American politics as part of your video game experience.
Mm. Okay.
So I wanted to mention that game.
Yeah, really quick Hogue notes. Jeez.
Sorry.
So if I look at the reviews, it's going to be a bunch of 5s and a bunch of 1s, I would assume.
I think even the people that maybe like it can get up to like an 8. Probably. It's doing some interesting stuff.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Cool.
It's around a 7 on average in terms of review scores. It looks like it's right at the top 6 in Metacritic, but whatever. Okay. Interesting. I had no idea. I saw people talking about Dustborn, but I didn't pay any attention to it, so I didn't know what was going on with that. So
I saw it was Red Thread. It's actually published by Quantic Dream. I didn't even know they had an indie publishing arm. But
that explains the politics.
Does it? The French company?
Yeah.
So it's published by Quantic Dream. It's made by Red Thread Games. It has been entertaining to me as someone that likes narrative games. I don't think you ever have to agree fully with what a game or other piece of media is trying to tell you. I just think you can be too polemic and too lecture-y in what you're trying to say. that it can impact the enjoyment you have from that media.
I would say like
course.
politics are in a lot more games than people give credit for, and like pretty much every science fiction has politics at some level because it is speculative on humans and where we're headed. But like you saying Quantic Dream, I think of Detroit Become Human, a game that I would describe as extremely preachy and like obnoxiously on the nose with some of its like metaphors and stuff like that, to the point where it just makes you roll your eyes. So I think there's a right way to do it and a way that is hacky. So I have no problem.
Is obnoxiously on the nose. I think that's true.
Okay, yeah. So then there you go. That was another Quantic Dream game. That's why I said it explains the politics, because I remember, I think that was their most recent game, right?
It was.
Yeah, and that game was it had. I can't even say some of the stuff in that game because it makes me laugh.
We talked about it before.
Yeah.
It's fine. Okay. Any other games you want to mention, guys?
No, that was it. I wanted to keep it quick. I know I had a little story to tell, but I just had the one game I wanted to mention, and I have a lot of games I have seen at Gamescom coverage that I want to talk about.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah.
Travis, anything else to call out?
I'll skip them. I don't know if anything I can really talk about yet anyway.
It's fine. We got plenty of games to talk through here. Some of these you can probably comment on anyway. So
was I able to talk about Splitgate last time?
You talked about it last week.
I don't know if you were allowed, but you said it.
Okay, great.
Cool. Let me get the super chat real quick from Vault Boy, since it's relevant to what we just talked about.
Vault Boy 50s gives 5 Canadian bucks to write. This is why I appreciate Hogue. He brings up more under the radar type of games like Dustborn, which I'm playing on PS5. Great call out.
There you go. And yes, Travis will read your words exactly. So you may want to spell check before you get in there. But appreciate you, Vault Boy. Good to see you, my friend. Hope you are doing well. And Elu's back with another super chat. Look at this guy.
Elu Spook offers a wrench and $5 to write. Monster Hunter Wilds looks incredible. There are many new details and quality of life changes, and there is a lot to be excited about. Stay tuned to SG for more.
To be clear, Travis, he's not offering the wrench. That means he is a mod.
Yeah, so he's offering his wrench to help us mod the comments.
I've said before, him and I have an ongoing joke about Monster Hunter. He adores it. I despise it, but I'm in on Wilds at least to play with him for a little while. So we'll talk about Wilds here momentarily. But yes, thank you, my friend. All right.
Thanks
so yes. Gamescom. So a lot of announcements were, as we do with a lot of these shows, right? We're going to talk about a lot of the games, give some commentary, give some release dates and information. Obviously, we can't talk about every single game that was shown, but I think we kind of cover a wide swath here of the games that we typically cover here on this show. So I'm just going to start with one of the kind of big announcements. We knew it was coming, but Borderlands 4. It was just a teaser. We didn't see any gameplay.
I didn't know it was coming.
Oh, it was there. It's been known Gearbox is making Borderlands 4, and they're making a Tiny Tina 2. Yeah,
I didn't know that. It was totally. Yeah. I saw that trailer. I was like, oh, I guess that's happening.
So, the teaser is literally a teaser. It just shows. Like, it looks like it. I mean, he's the best. He's the best antagonist they've created, right? So it wouldn't surprise me. He's one of the
best antagonists ever.
I miss Brothers in Arms. I'm just going to stand on that hill.
Brothers in Arms. What am I missing here?
That was Gearbox's series before Borderlands.
I thought we were talking about Borderlands. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we were.
He's bringing up something else.
Yeah.
He's
it's a wrench. See, he's throwing wrenches.
He offers a wrench as well.
But Borderlands 4, I'm a big Borderlands guy. I think it's fair to say 3 was not as highly regarded as 2. 2 is kind of considered as their pinnacle. So I'm hoping, as Travis pointed out, they do something with Handsome Jack or something in that vein, and I hope they get back to. I don't know. We'll see what they do with Borderlands 4. It says 2025. That's all we know.
I wrote an article for IGN called "Most Outrageous Moments in the Borderlands Series." And commenters repeatedly pointed out that I did not include a single moment from Borderlands 3, which I stand by. Like a lot of them.
I can't remember what happened in Borderlands 3, so that's probably one of its issues.
I think you get sad is what happens in that game, canonically.
I don't think it's as bad as people.
Look, I think the shooting is great, and I think the loot stuff was all good. Like they made improvements to the mechanics that they needed to, but it
Yes.
felt like they released a game that was lost in time. Like it was like 6 years too old for where like the games industry was in terms of like looter shooters have moved on and evolved a lot, and they were just like Borderlands 2 sequel with a worse story, a way worse story.
Yeah, I agree with you. The mechanics were much needed upgrades. The writing was definitely nowhere near as good as 2. If they can piece those things together and bring, other obviously new kind of features to that we've seen in modern ARPGs to Borderlands 4, I'm all in. So, and I love Tiny Tina's. Tiny Tina's was a fantastic game.
It was great. And it was more funny than Borderlands 3. So let's try to get that humor level up with Borderlands 4, please.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I like Borderlands as a series. I just missed Brothers in Arms. That's all.
Okay. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about Brothers in Arms. It's just you.
That's the kind of discussion you can get on the Season Gaming Bitcast, folks. Shut up, Hogue. Nobody cares.
Nobody cares, buddy. I love you, but nobody cares.
Oh God. You're not the only one I've seen talk about Brothers in Arms, to be fair, but I don't know how big that audience is. Regardless. What I hope gets a really big audience, and we've talked about this the past couple of weeks, but Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 was shown a lot at Gamescom. It had a big presence. We know it's coming out February 11th. They had a big gameplay showcase. People got to play it, check it out. So collector's edition announced for those weirdos like me that buy those things. But it's all good news. It's looking fantastic. I watched most of the gameplay demo that they had. I'm probably going to go dark on it now. I love that game so much. So I'm just, I'll just wait to play it now. But it looks really fantastic. Good. Yeah, it looks fantastic. I can't wait for that game. I think it's going to be excellent. So
I know you don't go to Kingdom Come Deliverance for its visuals, but I was really impressed by the upgrade on the visual side.
It looks fantastic. Yeah. In fact, again, it's one of those that I think was primarily optimized for realism, especially if you're running like a high-end PC. It looks like they've really stepped that up with 2. So it's going to be interesting. But
we'll say the story still seems a little too blockbuster Hollywood for me compared to the first one, which was like so understated and kind of seemed like it wasn't even trying to do that. That's the only concern I've got about that game.
It could go that route. That game has better writing than the first one has better writing than I think people who haven't played it would recognize or realize, right? It's got some really good storytelling. But we'll see what they do with part 2, but good team, good IP, looks great. Can't wait for it. We got the release date for Starfield Shattered Space. So we got an update on Gamescom where they added the land vehicle, the Rev 8. So finally one of those kind of big features that people have requested in Starfield is, being able to navigate around the planets quickly in this vehicle. That's out now. And then Shattered Space is actually coming soon, only about a month from now on September 30th. So we talked a little bit about it last week and the details that you guys provided because you know more about it than I do. But what's your kind of excitement level for this?
This is smaller than I thought it would be, at least as described so far. So I am not as excited as I was before I knew anything about it, which is probably not the direction you want to go in. But I am happy to have a car, or I would be if I could afford it. I went to go buy it in my Starfield game. I do not have enough credits. So I have to go.
I thought you just got it. I didn't know you had to buy it.
Now you have to buy it from the vehicle dealer. And I do not have enough credits, so I have to go earn some money. But yeah, Shattered Space, I want it to be good. I'm a Starfield fan. I like Starfield, but it doesn't appear to be as big of an expansion as I would have hoped.
Okay.
Game that underdelivered seems to be releasing expansion that will underdeliver. Headline.
There it is.
Surprise. Everyone's really surprised about that. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll play it. I don't know. I'm not super optimistic about this one, guys.
Starfield is a weird one. Like, it seems like there's such a gap between opinions on Starfield. It's one of those games that you know people really adore it. Some people like 10 out of 10. Other people really disliked it. I'm probably in the middle somewhere. I only put about 40 hours. I figured I'd go back to it after it gets all these updates and the expansion and stuff, and I will. But it didn't hit the way I wanted it to. It didn't grab me that way.
It doesn't grab you. It's It's like a world to live in, but it's not. It doesn't grab you like a Skyrim or a Cyberpunk.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like those games, Witcher, all those other big RPGs we talk about where it's like it's got you, and I'm going to lose 300 hours to this game. It didn't do that to me at all. It was like I was kind of trying to force myself to get into it, and it never really did for me. So we'll see. But one that is the direct opposite of what I just said is Diablo 4, Vessel of Hatred. We have talked a lot about Diablo 4 here. Yeah, that game rocks. Vessel of Hatred looks incredible. Some of the things they talked about or highlighted, I should say, because there's been a lot of coverage of Diablo 4.
They covered it a lot at Gamescom. I actually had to turn off some of it because they were going through like the areas and
literally everything. Yeah.
And I was like, no, thank you.
So we've talked a lot about this already, but just a reminder, it comes out October 8th, so it's not even that far away. The big thing they were highlighting generally were the mercenaries, which are like these updated kind of companions, and then they talked about the Dark Citadel, which, Travis, you may know more about this, so let me know, but the game director described it as a co-op PvE dungeon with puzzles and mechanics, and to a lot of us, I heard raid. So I don't know, it sounds almost like one of those kind of, an ARPG raidish type area or mechanic in the game. Do you know any more about this Dark Citadel?
I would really appreciate if people would look on IGN later this week.
Okay.
Just saying.
Yeah, I have some stuff to say about Diablo Vessel of Hatred this week.
Okay.
I can't go into it.
Okay, fair enough. So you'll see more
I
this
think
week.
What's interesting about what I did see from the coverage of Vessel of Hatred is kind of watching them take little bits of the seasons that they liked or worked or were working through during the seasons and having them implemented in the expansion. I like to see that. Again, I'm not usually a live services guy, so this is probably how all these things work, but it is interesting to see them kind of take the bits and pieces from the seasons and put them into something big and permanent in the game like Vessel of Hatred. I also wanted to give people an update. Last week, I was level 19 in my hardcore run of Diablo 4, and you all bet.
Hardcore Hogue.
What did you guys bet that I would get to?
I think
29.
I said 20, 28.
You said 7, I think, or I don't know. We were high 20s. We were high 20s.
Close, yeah.
Okay, well, I am, as of right now, at level 31.
Well played, sir.
So,
well played.
How?
I'm just that good. I don't know what to tell you. Like I said, after Loot Reborn, I think the way that you can tweak your builds is a little bit past
where
the enemies are. And so I felt more comfortable doing a hardcore run. And right now, I have to start doing some of the stuff for the seasonal kind of checklists and do some strongholds and some stuff that's a little bit technically beyond me. But I am going to do that, and I think I'm going to be successful at it. So,
no joke. If I were on hardcore mode, I know I would die while asleep. I would fall asleep in the wrong zone, and some random mob would come and kill me.
Vintage Willow says Hogue was right, as she tried to point out earlier. So, yes, you have accomplished that. And then Rob says Vintage Willow lies. So there's ongoing debate in the community about whether Hogue lies or not. But,
Yep, level 31 and rising. So,
I see. Does he reach 40, Travis? What do you think?
We're having a good time.
I mean,
I'm gonna say you don't get past 50 now. That's my new barrier for you.
He sort of passed the hurdle. My recollection of that game is that it tapers off and becomes easier for you to survive after you get past like the mid 30s. So
actually, that is true, especially now.
Yeah, especially now. I feel like because he would have to put himself in like a high end activity that he knew that there was a good chance of dying in order to die, because he can just avoid the stuff that's hard.
Well, to me, the question is am I going to transition the tiers, right? Like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
With my character, am I going to try to take this guy to tier 4? I don't know.
That's my point. Yeah, you would have to basically opt to a risky activity, which you could just decide not to do, and I don't think you would face any like real challenges in surviving after that. So
even tier 3 is not even really a jump. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, but he wouldn't even have to turn on tier 2 if he didn't want to. He could just
this whole run's been tier 2.
What's that?
This whole run's been tier 2.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Well,
so
Hardcore Hogue made it.
You just stay at tier 2 forever. Congratulations, Hardcore Hogue.
Hardcore Hogue. Nice, man. That's
People
good.
do
I'm glad.
People do care about this.
All right. So that is Festival of Hatred. Obviously, as Travis said, look for more coverage on that game, and we're leading up to release. We'll have a lot more to say on it once it's released. So more to come. As expected, we got the release date for Indiana Jones and a lot of coverage of it this week. So Indiana Jones is releasing December 9th on Xbox and PC, obviously Game Pass. They also announced, of course, which was, some people like, some people don't like, whatever your opinion, it's coming to PS5. They went ahead and announced that now, which was interesting, but it's coming to PS5 in the second quarter of next year. So about 6 months, maybe, give or take, post Xbox and PC release. I don't really care about that. If you guys want to talk about it, we kind of want to talk about the game itself. I'm really, really liking what I'm seeing. I've already was high on this game, but now I'm even higher. And at this point, I've gone dark on it. I don't want to see it anymore. Now I'm just going to wait to play it. I like what Machine Games is doing. I've read some of the interviews and coverage of it, in terms of talking to developers and getting a sense of what they're going for. And I'm in. I'm sold. I like it. I love the... By the way, you guys don't care, I know, but it has a cool collector's edition. It actually comes with an Indiana globe and
the globe
nice,
looks cool.
Yeah, the globe and a steelbook, and I'm in.
You mean a great circle? Comes with a great circle.
Well, yeah, there's a circle around the globe. It's like a secret compartment in the globe.
So there you go. Spoilers.
I'm not even going to tell you what I'm putting in it because you don't
lets
care.
you crack the earth in half and then find loot inside. That's what
that was Microsoft's plan for the Xbox. Always crack the earth in half. No, I am still less enthused about Indiana Jones than some people that I have seen. But I also have to say I'm not the biggest fan of Escape from Butcher Bay. I thought that was one of the more overrated experiences that I have had in first-person shooterdom. And one of the things that I saw from IGN, and Travis, you can remind me of who was writing about this, that is really excited about Indiana Jones now, is that it reminded him of Butcher Bay. It's like, okay.
Yeah, Ryan, I think, was doing the coverage on that, right? So,
and I know he really liked Butcher Bay, and if this feels like that, I can totally understand being excited for this. As someone that is relatively neutral on that, I don't know whether to get excited about this or not. I certainly prefer Indiana Jones as a property to Riddick, but I'm not that excited about first-person Indiana Jones. Sorry.
I mean, yeah, Butcher Bay is a pretty well-liked game. I think it's got
it's really highly regarded.
High 80s on Metacritic, and
it's fine.
I would say it's pretty good, but
there were other first-person games of the era that I preferred more. Like, I would rather play Condemned than Butcher Bay.
What? Let me ask this, because I see this a lot. You're obviously not alone. A lot of the dialogue around this game is being first-person, and Machine Games has come out and actually said why they decided to go first-person. I know we talked about this when it debuted. To me, personally, I don't really care. Like, third or first-person doesn't make a big difference to me in this game. Why does it seem weird to you to be first-person?
Well, I think it's better for cinematic properties to be third person because that's the way we experience cinema. I think that basically Machine Games is lying when they say that they chose first person for immersion. And it just so happens to be what they've made their entire company's lifespan, right? So, I mean, it's fine. Make what you're good at. That doesn't bother me, but don't lie to me while you do it, right? Like, I don't think you chose this for immersion. I think that you chose it because it's what you can make.
Or because they choose every game because they prefer to make immersive games.
I don't think first person is more immersive. I said this with Cyberpunk. I said this with Indiana Jones. I just don't think that is the case.
They clearly disagree with you.
They're allowed to disagree. I'm allowed to not be terribly excited about their project. We're all allowed to do these things.
I don't know if it's fair to call them liars because you disagree with what they would describe as a more immersive experience, because I think that's a legit perspective. Like, you're literally seeing through the eyes of the person that you're playing. That's pretty immersive.
You can say what you want about why you designed your game that way, but I don't have to take it as true.
Okay. I would say that is folly in this case, but that's fine.
Oh, I just realized that I don't even have a new verses for our 3-person. I only have the old school one. Where's Dan when you need him?
Right on my face.
Yeah, right on. That's perfect. Yeah. That's perfect.
I just am verses.
Hogue versus the world.
Yeah. Change it to no one cares, and then we'll just put it right over his.
But I was just curious because it doesn't bother me at all.
People who have played this game and they say it's great. and I'm probably not going to look at this game until it comes out, and I'll play it for myself and see what I think. But I was a little trepidatious about this after some of the early stuff, but after hearing from people I trust say that it's legit, like I'm pretty stoked for it. So
cool. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited about it. Obviously, it's coming out in December. We'll talk a lot more at that time. The other one that the other big Xbox one that was showed, I know Cog and several others, and Maddie and some of our friends got to check it out and interview the team at Obsidian, is around Avowed. We already knew that Avowed was delayed to February. But the gameplay looks really good. Travis's favorite people came out this week because it was announced and confirmed by Obsidian, and I know this is one of the topics, has come up, that at least on Series S and X, it is going to be 30 frames per second. So I don't know how much you guys care about that. Not a big deal to me as usual, because I'll just play it on Xbox. I'll play it on PC where I can adjust it as necessary. But I think the game itself and the impressions that I've read about Avowed and the people I've spoke to about Avowed have been very positive on it. So that was great to hear. So the frame rate doesn't bother me personally. I can see why, if you're only an Xbox owner, you would hope for a 60 FPS performance mode. I will just say this before you guys comment. I think the one thing that does bother me a little, because we heard the same narrative with Starfield, right? And then however many months after Starfield's launch, we get the 60 FPS mode, right? I don't know why they're not building those options ahead of time. I don't know if it's time. I don't know if it's some other reason, but it just, we've had this conversation many times. People expect a 60 FPS performance mode in these games. I don't know. And I would bet everything that we'll get one for Avowed a few months after launch. So I don't know why they have to go with the narrative of this is the way we want to make the game, when we all know they're going to make a 60 FPS mode afterwards.
it probably just has to do with optimization. Like,
it's probably, it could just be time. And
if you want to have a 60 FPS mode at launch, you'd have to delay the game by like 9 months, and there's no way that they're going to do that. And so, I don't know. I mean, I think open world RPGs are fine at 30 FPS. I don't think it really impacts the game too much. And Starfield was fine at 30 FPS. It had other problems, but it just depends by game to game how it actually feels and how it impacts your experience. And I think it'll probably be fine.
Yeah. And
I'm very excited for the game. I don't want the conversation to be there.
They've given you the option with Starfield, and I think, frankly, the fluctuating frame rate and the 60 frames per second, losing some of the kind of lighting that you get in the 30 frames per second, is the wrong call. Now, I don't want them to make that call for me necessarily. So I agree with the people that like to have the options, but I do think Starfield is a better product at the 30 frames per second. That said, I want to say one thing about Avowed, which is that I have been on the record saying I'm not so enthused about this game. I haven't seen anything that's very exciting. This Gamescom was the moment that turned. Avowed looks fantastic. I am very much looking forward to Avowed. It looks wonderful. Oh, yeah. I love the codex stuff they have that they had in Pillars of Eternity. I love the quest that they showed at Gamescom. It had a number of twists and turns that I really liked. I think Avowed is going to be wonderful, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
Have faith in Obsidian, Hogue.
I need to have more faith in Obsidian. Sorry. I think Avowed looks great.
Cool.
Yeah, it does. It does really look good.
I think it's going to be good. They've also had the time to put in this. I was thinking about how long we've known this game is in production, and it's been a while. And it was probably even working. They were working on it for sure before we even knew about it. So I think I think they're going to have a winner.
Yeah, and by the way, as Mo and Yavin point out in the chat, they did say that's a baseline. So I think it's pretty assumed that they're going to add 60 FPS in time. Yeah, it's and it's 6 months. Is it 6 months? Yeah, 6 months till release. So they've got time. So we'll see. But it looks great. Very excited about that one. Let's get into some other announcements here. So we got a new Dying Light game coming. And these are in no order, by the way. These are just a whole bunch of the random games. So Dying Light The Beast is what it's called. It is a standalone game coming from the team at Techland. It's a new region in the Dying Light universe. And from what Keeley said, it looks to be around 20 hours of content, which is a very different narrative from what they did with Dying Light 2. So I'm kind of thinking that they're going for a standalone but more condensed package here with this. That's why it's not Dying Light 3, maybe Dying Light subtitle. But it looks like Dying Light. So I don't have a whole lot on this. I like Dying Light 1 a lot. Dying Light 2 didn't do it for me. I was very, very excited about Dying Light 2, and it just really fell flat for me personally.
That's
So
interesting. I like 2 better.
I like 2 as well.
Yeah, and I think most people maybe like 2 better. I just for whatever reason didn't grab me, but I'm curious to see, if anything, what is kind of new or unique about this new one from them.
I'm all for 20-hour games or less, folks. I'm happy to buy them. So I think they are trying to make it smaller. I think Dying Light 2 is too big. So I'm all for a smaller approach, just like I was with Mirage on the Assassin's Creed side. And I hope for the best. I'm looking forward to this one.
Excellent.
Yeah, I reviewed Dying Light 2, and I think sometimes the Dying Light 2, I would say it's true about both games, really. They take a while to get going, but once you get into them, they're really, really good. And so a 20-hour version of that maybe skips the prologue a little bit and gets into the action and the meat of the story a little faster sounds good to me. Techland is an extremely talented studio who has earned a hard-won reputation for treating their players very well, and I think I'll probably buy and support this expansion.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, their support for Dying Light 1 is legendary. I mean, it's just they did that for several years, which was great.
When they finally sunset Dying Light 1, they remembered that I reviewed the game, and not for an IGN, by the way, for like a small outlet, and they sent me like a good going away goodbye package for like a thanks for the memories that included Polaroid photos of the characters from the game, like they were having like a goodbye farewell photo party, and then also a Dying Light branded Polaroid camera of my own to take photos.
That's cool.
And, like, send in my photo. Like, it was they're so like dedicated to their game, and that was like after 7 years of supporting their game. So Techland is a super great team, just such good people on that team.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I still remember the Dying Light 2 showcase at E3 2019 and how well done it was and how nice they were to all of us. I remember we were even smaller back then. SG was, very small. And they're just, very good people. By the way, a couple people point out, including Rick and Chris Jetzer, that this is a standalone game. That's why it's titled The Beast in a sense, but it is free if you bought the ultimate version of Dying Light 2. Essentially, this was the second expansion for the Ultimate Edition, but it grew beyond that. So they're kind of doing a combo where you still get it if you bought the Ultimate Edition, but it's also going to be a standalone thing. So pretty cool.
So I think I would say you could buy it standalone, but because it comes bundled with the Ultimate version, it's technically not standalone. I think what they're saying is that the story and what you experience is standalone and separate from the campaign. Different character, different. You're not going to take your loot with you. So functionally, it is standalone, but
that's funny because that's exactly the same fact pattern as Mirage, right? Mirage was going to be an expansion to Valhalla.
There it is. There were people asking where it was, Travis.
Mirage.
But that was going to be an expansion to Valhalla, and then it kind of grew, right?
Was it? I don't remember that.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. Cool. Turning a sharp corner of game type anyway, we've got Lost Records, Bloom and Rage. So the new game from Don't Nod Montreal. It's releasing February 18th for Chapter 1, and a month later is Chapter 2 on March 18th. And as we keep joking here, it seems week after week, and we're only in August, more and more games are already showing up in February of 2025. It looks like it's going to be one of those months again. But anyway, this is the latest game from Don't Nod. Obviously, it's got that Life is Strange DNA. I know that Don at SG, we were talking about this the other night. He's a huge, huge fan. He may actually be reviewing that for us, possibly. But it's not my type of game. I don't play a lot of these. But what are you guys' thoughts on this? Any updated commentary?
Well, it is my type of game. I don't have enough to be excited about, right? They're mostly selling it on pedigree. We made Life is Strange. And I don't know about this one. So much depends on the characters and the story.
Of course.
But I do like Don't Nod. Though I've had some frustrations with them playing through Banishers. So I will play it. It's my kind of game, but I don't know whether it'll be any good or not.
Sure. I think the writing and characters are so critical in games like that. So you don't really know until you experience it, whether it's going to really hit the same way for you.
Yeah. Well, that's why Life is Strange was so popular, and like the other Life is Stranges are not as popular.
Yeah, very fair.
I'll play this one.
Hey, Travis, you can be my '90s musical buddy.
Hell
We
yeah!
can kill different people in the narrative.
Looks
It'll be
good.
great.
Look, the Life is Strange games aren't perfect, but they are unique. There's no other games like them, and I think that alone makes it worth my time.
Cool. Obviously, I have to shout out the team at Odd Bug Studio for Tales of Iron 2. Was a winner, which got a release date, which is going to shock everyone.
Boys.
February, it's coming out. So yet another one. I know that's a smaller game, but don't sleep on it. First one's great. This one looks even better.
How do you pronounce that month?
February.
He says the R. He believes in the R, Travis.
Why?
February.
Is that weird?
Yeah, it is a little weird. I mean,
that's weird.
I don't have a problem with it, but yeah, it's a specific way to pronounce the name. February.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it is?
That's how it's spelled. That's not how most people pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that's fine. I'm not most people in a lot of ways.
Tales of Iron is fun.
Yeah. Yes, great game. You should definitely play that, Travis. You'd like it. We said that last week, I think.
I've not played any of these rat games, but I am familiar. I think I own Tales of Iron 1. I just never got around to playing it.
It's awesome.
It's good.
We got a couple that looked shockingly similar. So we got the new game from Tarsier Studios, which did Little Nightmares 1 and 2. We've talked about this. So we finally got to see what they're working on. It's called Re-Animal, and it looks shockingly similar to Little Nightmares. But there's a couple differences here. So it's got the same type of aesthetic, if you will, very horror-esque, etc. The thing they called out that's going to make this game different, obviously different characters and stuff, but it's actually co-op. So there's the two players on the screen like Little Nightmares 2, but it is co-op, either online or local. And when you're playing by yourself, the second character will be AI. So it's going to be two characters the whole time. They also noted that within the game, there's actually different islands that you will go to. You will travel between those on a boat. They didn't really give more specifics about it just yet. No release date on this one, but it looks, if you liked Little Nightmares 1 and 2, definitely check out Re-Animal because it looks right up that alley.
I hate the name.
Weird name. Yeah, I hope it obviously has some.
Re-Animal? I'm just, who... Imagine.
I mean, if you watch the trailer, it's obviously supposed to play on Reanimate. It's got this goat-looking creature that and I guess we'll see what happens. But I do trust.
Imagine throwing that out there. How vulnerable the marketer in that meeting room must have been when he was like, "How about Re-Animal?" And then everybody's just like, I mean, we can't think of anything better. But I get, it's just, I would be real nervous about saying that one out loud if I were in a brainstorming session.
Yeah, we'll see. I do trust the studio though, so I expect that game to be good. And then of course we're getting Little Nightmares 3, which is from Supermassive, which we've talked about. We got the trailer for that. Looks awesome as I expected it would, and that's coming in 2025. No release date other than the year. So more to come on that. Obviously, probably Game Awards or something later this year. One of the most interesting ones this week was Masters of Albion. So Peter Molyneux is back talking with Keighley, talking on stage, doing interviews. So to set the stage for this one, and I actually read the Eurogamer interview with Peter Molyneux, which was fascinating.
Wild.
Yeah, very wild. I would highly recommend it. So
it is a trip.
So Peter Molyneux is now in his 60s. If for some reason you don't remember Peter Molyneux, he was the God Game guy, Populous way back when, if you're seasoned like us, Black and White, and of course Fable, and known widely across the industry for promising wild things and kind of burying his developers under expectations that were just simply couldn't be met. So he's back. He's got Masters of Albion, which obviously, if you're familiar with Fable, is the region in Fable. He quotes that it's just a folk name for England, and so he's allowed to use it. But this is a new God game. and basically saying that he has a team that has some of the former devs from the classic Fable games, but this is a God game at heart. It's not like an RPG like Fable. So I don't know. Someone actually apparently asked him of like, do you have license to use Albion? And he was like, no, I didn't, he didn't think he would need it. It's not like an IP, if you will. So, it's an interest.
I think he is right. It's like Valhalla,
I can talk about
right?
this from an intellectual property perspective. Albion is certainly available to anybody.
Yeah, please do.
What you can't use are the expressive parts of Fable, right? To the extent Fable consists of specific towns or specific characters, he can't drag those in. But the name Albion is like using America.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like it's like Valhalla or other, made
Fair
up
enough.
name. You can use anything.
Yeah. So Sard, by the way, Ray asked, what is a God game? So if you're not familiar, God game basically means like you're kind of overseeing a civilization or cities or towns, and you're kind of playing God. That's why they're called God games. So you kind of navigate that, and things can go really poorly, things can go really well, and everything in between. So Hogue, this seems more up your alley. So why don't you talk a little bit about this one?
God games are characterized primarily by being able to like terraform the earth and have rain or sun as one of your powers, and earthquakes and things like that, more than just a Sim City or a civilization type game. So you do have God powers. Populous is one I recommend everybody check out. It really is kind of the progenitor of this entire genre of type of games. Peter Molyneux really did earn his street cred from that game back in the way back days.
It's on Sega Genesis as well as PC, of course.
But he's got a long history now of essentially having projects that didn't work. He was the one that had that mobile game where you tapped a cube. He was the one that had a different game called Goddess that never came out fully and like went into early access and then was pulled back, and all sorts of stuff like that. And the Eurogamer interview that you've included here in our show notes, Ain, says a fallen god of game design seeking one final chance. I feel like he has sought one final chance many more times than once.
Yeah.
And is he a fallen god, or is that how he sees himself, you think? Or how on the nose are we being here?
I telling you, read that interview because it is crazy. He basically admits to being completely depressed, not having any money, stressed out, not sleeping. Basically, his mental health is fragile. And that, he's saying all this as the lead of this game. Basically, that this is his one final game that he wants or needs to be a hit. And I'm like, that is a weird way to talk about an upcoming game. So it's a fascinating interview.
I feel like this is how he has gone out with his last couple of projects, with a full-on sympathy press as part of their marketing. And I feel bad for anybody that's going through all the stuff that you mentioned. And if he is, I feel bad for that. But that certainly doesn't mean that you have to back him up in the state of commerce or the project that he's working on. I hope it's great, but I have no reason to believe it will be.
Agreed. Seeing Peter Molyneux after all this time made me realize that every time Ains talks about his dad, I picture Peter Molyneux.
My dad?
As the avatar for your dad.
When do I talk about my dad? What?
So like when you've mentioned your dad, I'm like, in my head, I've just made Peter Molyneux that avatar for your father. So I don't know, Ains. I just wanted to point that out there. He's a British guy.
That's where the similarities end. You pretty much. That's literally it. You found
one. For
the
record, on Albion, there's tons of board games and card games that use Albion. Even when Fable used Albion, it was probably because it was essentially public domain. So I don't see a problem with using the name Albion. If he starts grabbing stuff from Fable, it would be a bigger issue.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. Populous was definitely something, but that was a very, very long time ago.
Populous was great, but it's old.
Yeah, way back. I was a young kid when I first played that. I was fascinated by it.
I was alive for anything that he made that was considered like good or great.
I love Populous, and it was a sea change. It was a genre defining game.
What was it Black and White or
Black and White is way after Populous.
Yeah, Black and White was like the one I think I played that I was like, oh, okay, this guy's got something. And then Fable. And
that's where he got his reputation, Black and White, of like promising the world and not delivering. So Populous came out in 89. Travis.
The 80s.
Yeah, I was not born yet.
You're familiar with the decade of the 80s?
No, I'm not personally familiar with it. No, but I've read about the Civil War too. I know about what happened during that time.
It's funny. I can picture the cover of Populous in my head with like the
Me
little
too.
like almost Qbert looking grid.
Yep.
I'm sure you grabbed a Pepsi Cola and turned on the Reagan speech that was playing that night and had yourself a good old time. Oh,
And
actually,
we had black and white TVs in my house. For this
89, it would not be Reagan. It'd be anyway.
Yeah, that was 88. Anyway, so we're getting a new Mafia game. So
yes, this is the biggest
Nice.
news.
this is the biggest news for Hogue. Okay, well, I will just mention it quickly. So we're getting Mafia: The Old Country. Obviously, Hangar 13 developing, coming next year. Takes place early 1900s Sicily.
What a great
And
idea.
they will show more at the Game Awards in December. But their quotes about this are very driving hard on authenticity. They've spoken about that a lot and really going for that environment. So
I would like to mark out my place as the world's biggest Mafia 3 fan. So if anybody wants to
I'll fight
challenge
you.
me for that category,
I'll challenge you on that.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful, Travis.
How much of it have you played?
I love Mafia 3. I've
How much
played
of
it
it have you
all
played?
and the expansions.
Okay, so did I. Okay, so we can't resolve it that way. How often do you talk about it?
I haven't heard about Mafia 3 from either of you on this show in a very long
No,
time.
you have.
So.
You have. Yeah.
No, I have, but not a while.
Not infrequently. Mafia 3 has one of my favorite starts to a story in video game history. I think it's propulsive. It takes you through like 90% of the boring stuff. And Lincoln Clay is one of my favorite characters in video game history as well. So I think Mafia 3 is fantastic. I think Hangar 13 deserves another crack at Mafia because their storytelling is wonderful and they just have to clean up some of the kind of repetitive tasks in the middle of their game. And I think putting it in Sicily before the other Mafia games is a wonderful idea. I am stoked about this, Ains, like you are for Emergence Day.
Yeah, I really liked Mafia.
That's a bold
3.
statement, my friend.
I'm just telling you, that's how I want to convey how I feel.
That's good. I'm happy. That's awesome.
I didn't even really care about the other Mafia games, and I went and played them after I played Mafia 3 and was like, meh, because Mafia 3 was just they nailed so much. If they can fix like a little bit of the grind and monotony with the typical territory taking over flow, I think it could be a household name in the games industry, in the game space. I hope they stick with the documentary style storytelling.
Yes,
so good. That would be amazing. I thought that was such a good device. I also hope that their team is given as many marketing dollars as they were given for Mafia 3, which was substantial because
didn't they have like a disco at E3 or something?
At E3, like they had a parade, New Orleans style, where they hired one of those New Orleans parades and they paraded around all of E3, and it was hilarious. And then also they had a like New Orleans style house with the balcony and just all this, and that was where they did their demos and stuff. And it was amazing because I was like, wow, they're really going all out. They must really believe in their game. And then when the game came out, I was like, no wonder they believed in it. And I feel like these games get overshadowed a little bit by some of the other open world sandbox games like Rockstar, Grand Theft Auto, and stuff like that. And I do think they're very different styles, and I think Mafia deserves more attention. So yeah, Mafia 3 is amazing.
Such a good story in games.
According to my wife, I once told her about Mafia 3 while sleeping. So that's how much I think about Mafia 3.
I want a recording, D, of Travis talking about games he likes while he sleeps.
Apparently I do that, and also write code in my sleep, according to her.
Okay, so, I didn't know where you're going with that.
Awake, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's great. I didn't realize you guys were such big fans. That's awesome. I do think that going to Sicily, old country, I like that idea. That could be really, really well done. So yeah, I'm excited for it too. I'm not a huge Mafia fan, but I'll check it out.
I'm so glad Hangar 13 gets another crack. I was worried they were going to have the series pulled from them.
Me too.
So I'm so excited about this.
Ready? I'm gonna anger both of you at once. So a few years back, about a year or two after Mafia 3 came out, they had this collector's edition, which came with like the records and all this stuff, right? And they were clearing them out at 2K, and I got it for like $20 or $25, big box. Never opened it, never played it.
Oh God!
Yeah. So still
I
haven't
just
played 3.
say Mafia 3 is fantastic, and I love it to death.
Dude, you could play it now. I made D play it because I was like, you have to play this.
And they like revised it and touched it up and everything.
Yeah,
too.
there's a
Like,
remastered
yeah.
version.
Honestly, Ains, you should play it now. Next time we make you have to do something terrible, we should make you do that instead.
So many people have told me to play it. We were literally talking about Mafia 3 in our chat while playing Concord last night because Bert, my good friend who I started SG with, he's a diehard Mafia 3 stan too. He loves it. So it's kind of funny.
Great game.
Got all these people challenging me for best Mafia 3 fan in the world. I thought I had this one in the bank, people.
Now, I from everything I've heard about it is that a lot of people really liked it, but all I've ever heard about that game is the story's fantastic. A lot of the aspects are fantastic, but the stuff you do in between those segments is really monotonous. That's all I've ever heard.
That is exactly accurate. Yeah.
That is the game. Yeah.
Cool. That's fine. By the way, Denise said, it is insane how much Peter Molyneux has fallen from grace. When I was a teen, he was bigger than Kojima. Gaming journalists would wait hours for a tech talk about Fable 2. And yeah, he was a king in the industry for a while. Yeah, no doubt. All right, I have to mention this. Elu's going to get too excited, as are probably the gigantic community this game has. But Monster Hunter Wilds, it's coming next year. We got a new look, including, if I have this right, I am not the Monster Hunter expert, but we got to look at 2 new major monsters, primarily this crazy looking spider thing, which actually looked freaking awesome. I'll give them credit there. Spider thing, and then a dragon as well. They also showed off, excuse me, kind of a new, I think the new home base town, whatever. There's probably a name I don't know that's going to be in the game. Sadly, we did not get a more specific release date. It is just still 2025. So not sure exactly when that's going to release. But the new footage was cool. I know from what I've seen, the Monster Hunter stand, very, very excited. So,
yeah, I have no doubt it'll be excellent. I have a tendency to fall off the Monster Hunter games a little bit. I like the smaller versions like Rise a little bit better than, what is it, Worlds and Wilds? But I think it'll be great. There's no question. Capcom has earned my trust with basically everything they've released in the last few years.
Capcom's way up there, no doubt. Yeah.
Yes, the people I know who got to preview this game are extremely hardcore into Monster Hunter. I pretty much only play. I'm like the opposite of Hogue. I get kind of bored by the smaller ones because they strike me as really too grindy. But Worlds was the first one that I ever like fell deep into and was really into. And Wilds, it sounds like, is in that same tradition and legacy. And the people who I know who played it say that it is everything that they hoped that it would be. So it's going to be a big one.
It is. That game's going to sell gangbusters, no doubt about it in my mind. So I am looking forward to checking it out. I give Elu and friends a lot of crap, of course, but I am looking forward to checking it out. I hope I can get into it. It does look great. I really liked what I saw at the show. And I got to preview it, like I said, at Summer Game Fest. Not play it, but we got the producer demonstration, and it looks great. So more to come on that in the near future, of course. By the way, been a great crew with us today, over 250 people steady. So please, as we've commented, every once in a while, please hit that like, leave us a comment. You know, the usual YouTube stuff. It helps us out. We'll just quick mention for that. But moving on to another game that I'm excited about, which I think looks really unique and cool, is the first Berserker Kazan, which by description is a hardcore action role-playing game. The main character we learned this week was, or will be, voiced by Ben Starr, of course, from Final Fantasy 16.
Where isn't that guy?
I was just going to say, he's not
in the Mario games. He tried.
He's shown up everywhere. The Mario games. There is going to be a technical test in early October for about a week, but the game itself is coming out next year. I believe the tech test is only on Steam. So if you're interested in that game, you can check out, maybe sign up for that. But I think it looks really cool. I like what I've seen of this one.
I don't think I saw a preview of this. I don't recognize the name, but there's been like 600 games this week.
A lot of games. Yeah. Check this one out. You might like the footage. It looks like a hardcore ARPG, but it's got the kind of animated look to it. More of a like anime look rather than hardcore. By the way, I get this quick super chat because I didn't want to wait until the end here, but quick one for you.
Glyphere gives me $2 to write "All Hail the Mafia" series.
There you go. The Mafia fans were out in I don't know the word I'm looking for. Enforced this week.
Oh yeah, dude.
You
could almost say that they're a mafia.
I'm almost never excited by the One More Thing announcement, but the Mafia 1900 announcement was the One More Thing at Opening Night Live. I lost my mind. I've never been more excited for one of those kind of little teasers. So
cool. That's great.
Yeah, it was really
awesome.
Cool.
Glyphere, thank you very much. Appreciate you. All right. Where am I here? So we talked about this one when it was first shown. I think it was shown at Summer Game Fest, but No Room in Hell 2. I like the idea of this one. 8-player co-op permadeath. So I'm going to need Hardcore Hogue to show up here. But it's an 8-player co-op shooter where, you're trying to survive. I think the idea is cool. My worry with these games, I think similar to GTFO, which you were telling me about, Travis, which I still haven't played, by the way. But correct me if I'm wrong, but my concern about these types of games is they can be excellent when you have the crew that's dedicated to playing it as it's designed. But trying to be one or two people that's playing with either randoms or in a group that you're not coordinating in these types of games that are co-op and permadeath and are challenging can be tough. So we'll see how this one performs. Early access is coming, they said, around Halloween on PC. So we'll see what happens here.
That reminds me of
a Crew or Pain game.
Crew or Pain, yeah, that's a good description for it, no doubt.
That reminds me of Evolve, which was a game I really liked, like one out of every 20 games, because when everybody was playing it, it was fun, and when people didn't know what they were doing, it was not.
Gotta have a crew.
Those games are tough. They're tough. Genshin Impact.
You have a crew now, though, Hogue. You have a crew.
I do not apparently live on the same sleep schedule as my crew, so I mean, you don't know.
No, we're gonna storm it up.
We need to come up with some sort of Concord. But the the next game is Genshin Impact, obviously a very, very popular game. The news here, obviously, beyond some additional content, was that it's finally coming to Xbox on November 20th. So good to see that coming to Xbox peeps. And, we'll have more coverage of that. We have a couple of people at SG that play Genshin Impact quite a bit. But, good to see it. So the other one I want to mention was Towerborn. So Towerborn had a big presence at Gamescom with kind of what I thought was a strange announcement. So if you remember, this game was previewed last year, and we've talked about this with Xbox before about their structure of talking about game releases. So Stoic is making this game, smaller team. They had a lot of time this week to show it off, interviews. They did a podcast with the team at Xbox about this one. But then they announced that it's coming to Steam early access on September 10th, which, by the way, is only 2 weeks away, basically, which is awesome. But that it's now not coming to Xbox until next year, which kind of strange given that the preview that I played for this was on Xbox. It was in the game preview program on Xbox. And basically what they said is that they want to run this through early access and continue to revise it for a while before they do the full release. So I don't know. I found this a little strange personally, especially considering the early access was already on Xbox and they had advertised this as a 2024 release for Xbox. But here we are.
Who makes this?
Stoic, who made Banner Saga.
Okay.
I believe. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I have that right. I know it's Stoic. I'm pretty sure they made Banner Saga. This is the one that is a side-scrolling co-op ARPG, Castle Crashers meets Dragon Crown type thing. Mm-hmm. We talked about it a little bit last week. Yeah. So don't mind the early access approach at all, but it's kind of, I don't know, it felt strange. They advertised an Xbox release all year since last year. And now they're like, it's coming to Xbox next year. We're going to start on Steam. So.
I do get the impression that the developers get more and better feedback from going through early access on PC rather than the console approaches to that. So
probably.
I suspect that's informative of what they're looking for, but I don't know.
I have a feeling these delays are less about like technical issues on Xbox and just the general time it takes to deliver a game onto a unique platform, and Xbox being such low priority right now, and also it kind of them sort of having the social go ahead from players to just skip Xbox too, because it seems like nobody really blinks when they just get skipped or delayed.
Well, this is still going to be an Xbox game, right? It just is for some reason after Steam by like a good amount.
I think it's after Steam
true.
because if you're going to spend development time on putting a game together for a platform, why would you prioritize Xbox first or among first, especially if you're bandwidth constrained?
I do admit you have to go where the people are.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't have the definitive numbers there, but I mean, there's probably some truth to it for sure. So.
Especially since Xbox itself is like deprioritizing their own platform in terms of like that being the end all be all of where you need to play their games. So it's like, all right, put it on PC. We'll support
Well, that's true. I mean, we skipped the Indiana Jones big story a little bit, but them announcing that it goes to PlayStation makes a lot of sense because Indiana Jones is a big cross-cultural pop phenomenon. But it does kind of raise the question of what Xbox is selling. We've talked about it here that they're selling a Game Pass. And when I heard about the Bethesda acquisition, one of the things that I said in my early videos was that I anticipated that they would get these big time IPs like Elder Scrolls and put them everywhere because they make that money and then they can use them as billboards for Game Pass, and was surprised when they said they were going to take some of this stuff exclusive in the way that they did. But it looks like they're coming around to the billboard approach for Game Pass, even if it devalues the Xbox as a piece of plastic under your TV. So I think that's what's happening there. And I did want to mention it as part of the Indiana Jones conversation because I know a lot of people have voiced their concerns about the direction of Microsoft on this.
I think that them not keeping their games exclusive, selling them on PlayStation, but then adding the caveat of, hey, but if you play it on Xbox, you don't have to pay for the game because you can just subscribe to Game Pass. I think that's a winning argument. I think Xbox is making the argument very poorly. I don't think they're marketing it correctly. I think too many of the headlines are about how it's going to be on PlayStation and not the fact that you have to pay $70 on PlayStation and not on Xbox. And I think they've got to just like own that message and drill it into people's heads and make it a expected part of their business model if they want to stop losing as badly as they are. So that's for them to make that argument. But I kind of also viewed that as the winning strategy, Hogue, of like not necessarily making all these games exclusive, but making them way more accessible on Xbox, and therefore you encourage people to choose your platform even though it's not exclusive. But I just don't think that argument is being well delivered right now. Like all I see is people just being like, oh, it's on PlayStation 2, the downfall of Xbox. And it's like, all right, it doesn't have to be that. Like Xbox is going to make a ton of money by it being on PlayStation. And then they can also encourage it being people playing it on Xbox by pointing out the price difference there.
So I would say, yeah, I think messaging, and I know a lot of people have written about this, from Jez to Jason to a bunch of people written around the messaging. And we talk about this a lot. The messaging is odd for sure. I'd be careful in saying I would raise some concern of saying they're losing unless you're speaking about console sales solely. Losing is a bad way, I think, to phrase it, considering, they're profitable. They're, the metrics around Xbox are really strong. The MAU, the things they're looking at now. It's just that they deprioritize the actual console box itself.
When I say losing, I mean just losing like the culture war, like you know what I mean? Like all you see is like the sentiment online is that it's not going well, and I don't think it really has to. I think that's a Microsoft's fault that's happening because there's a positive
messaging. Yeah,
there's a muddled message, and I think
agree with that. But
there's a super positive way to put this, but like all you see is just this like this doom loop narrative of like it's just all going down, and I don't think it has to be that way.
I think gamers often have a very simplistic view of the way this industry works and the way these companies compete against each other. Obviously, Microsoft, end of the day, cares about the dollar, not the console war, right? The console war was always a proxy kind of score kept by fans for reasons that are a little bit beyond my ken because I was never that invested in it. But it is clear that Microsoft has either been beaten in or given up on the primary scoring mechanism of the console war. And if you go and look at their financials, the American dollar war is going just fine for them. But people care about the plastic boxes. They do. So I think, Travis, you're right. I just don't know that Microsoft actually cares about winning that particular brain space because they view it as already lost and too expensive to try to gain back. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to look like. I don't think they have presented what they are doing with these acquisitions as well as they could have.
I think you have to win that if you're Xbox to some extent, because
have to win what?
I think you have to win the people caring about your brand and platform and your ecosystem.
Okay.
Not just buying your game. Because
I would say they don't, because I think the next step for Microsoft is probably getting some game that's released on PlayStation that PlayStation should make a bunch of money on and having most of it go into Game Pass and then using that as leverage to get Game Pass on PlayStation. I think that's the next step.
I think the next step is the opposite. I think it's a game not doing as well on PlayStation and doing really well on Xbox because it's more accessible on Xbox, and then them using that as a tool to get people back on their platform. Because I think Microsoft, I think they still see the value or really the danger in like losing the home advantage, right? If people are not playing your games on your console, then you are privy to all of the things that the platform owner wants to do. It was the reason that they said that they were going to make the Xbox, right? That argument where somebody said to Bill Gates, but what about
25
like,
years ago?
Yeah, what about the living room? I think that argument still holds true. Like if you're not the platform owner, you are having to play by somebody else's rules, and I really think Microsoft is going to balk at that. So I don't know. I think they will see that that value and try to do that, but they're not winning that argument right now.
I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, I don't disagree on that point. I think most of us agree. Even the Xbox fans would tell you that the messaging is convoluted and how they're approaching it. To your point, I think if you take Indiana Jones in a vacuum, I think to what you said, Travis, if I understood you correctly, was that this should be a good selling point for Xbox. You have a fantastic, well-known IP. You have a great game that looks like it's going to be excellent, or at least very good, coming out. You can launch it on Xbox and PC this December. It's on Game Pass, or you can wait 6 months and you can pay full price for it on PlayStation. And either way, in that vein, Xbox is winning because they're making the money off of all of it. So it's a generally a good thing, but it's, to your point, it's being phrased or at least presented as kind of this. Yeah. Oh, we don't really want to talk about the fact that it's going to PlayStation.
Yeah, they're letting themselves they're letting the narrative control them rather than controlling the narrative. And I don't think the narrative is, even if they presented it correctly, I don't even think it's a bad one. I think they could be winning on this issue. They're just fumbling the message so bad, and it's making them look like they're in a death spiral, and I just don't think they are.
No, and that's the hardest, or not hardest, that's the weirdest part of this conversation. Is anecdotally, it feels like they're doing really poorly. The financials are completely different. So they're doing really well. The MAU's up, the usage is up, the profitability's up. All those look good. But to your point,
forget the financials. Not even financials. Even if you're a player who doesn't care about the financials like me, their catalog is not a losing catalog. Their pipeline of upcoming games is not losing. It's strong. It's awesome. Where Sony's looks very much weaker right now. And so it's like, how are they losing this debate when they have all of the the cards in their hand? You know what I mean? Like what? How are they failing that so bad? It's like they have a great hand and they have a great hand and they think that they have to bluff, and they're not good at bluffing. You know what I mean?
They're really bad at messaging. I don't think we can understate that. Microsoft has been really bad at this for a number of years now.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, we were just talking 2 months ago about how amazing their showcase was, right? We've done this before. And then it feels like that sentiment lasts about a week. And then, here we are after Gamescom. By the way, a Gamescom that Xbox went huge on, their biggest Gamescom presence ever, with no Nintendo and no PlayStation. And here we are somehow leaving that show, to your point, or not maybe but, you know, again, I'm very inspired by where Xbox is going from a catalog perspective, to your point. And I'm very interested in all of that, but it's weird that some of the narrative is still negative.
Well, they knew that would come from the Indiana Jones announcement. I think the timing is interesting there. I'm not sure whether Sony forced them to announce it right now or not. But like, why announce that your game is coming to another platform a couple of months before you're going to have it on yours with Game Pass? I don't know.
I don't know either.
It's an interesting choice.
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't even think they're making choices. I think they're letting choices make them. You know what I mean? Like, they're just not controlling it. They're just letting it kind of slip out however it slips out, and it's just so amateur. It's just,
well, they did have leaks happen before the announcement.
Yeah.
So that is a part of the story. We didn't know
as always
which game was going to come out. Yes, Microsoft always has leaks. That is true.
Yeah. They're too big. They're
anyway. Bloat goat. A couple more games I want to mention. So Arc Raiders, this is one that was shown a while ago and we hadn't seen in a little while, but I was interested in. It's by Embark Studios, who did the finals, which I talked about a lot earlier this year. There's a beta for this coming later this year. It's now releasing next year, but this is one that went the opposite direction of what we were joking about with Concord, which is this was announced as a free-to-play shooter. It's now releasing next year for $40. And we got we kind of got the press details on that, but they didn't really show much. Again, it was a cinematic trailer. Gonna need to see more of this because I don't really know what they're going for. The press email states that the package has grown a lot and they now feel that this is a premium release that deserves a $40 price tag. So
I also hate the title of this one. It sounds like somebody is misremembering the title of the first Indiana Jones movie.
I mean, it could be Arc Raiders. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It's like, hey,
Arc
what was
Raider.
that first Indiana Jones movie? Arc Raiders or something like that? Yeah, close enough. I know what you mean, but yeah, I don't like the title of this one.
Yeah, we'll see. Path of Exile 2, we've talked about multiple times on this show. Super excited about this one from an ARPG perspective. We did get the early access release date, which I'm hugely pumped for, is November 15th. Same day as PC as console as well, both Xbox and PlayStation. So November 15th, same day as Assassin's Creed Shadows. So that's going to be a big time for games there in middle October, or November, excuse me, because there's a game that releases on the 14th as well, which I'm forgetting right now. But
it's about a month after Vessel of Hatred. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
ARPG fans eating good.
No doubt.
I've played that game. Cool. Excited.
Yeah, I've played it. If you've played Path of Exile, you know what to expect. It plays just like the first one, but obviously it's going to have a whole bunch of improvements.
More action-y, though. That's the big headline, I think, is like it's less like a passive game style. Like, it's got more kind of like quick responses and back and forth. More like an action game than a RPG, like, traditional ARPG.
Fair enough. Silkenit, thank you, my friend. He said Dragon Quest. The Dragon Quest remake is November 14th. So hell of a week for games that'll take your time. Dune Awakening is the MMO in the Duneverse. The Duneverse. There we go.
No.
Yeah, I love it. Let's add it.
The Duneverse Awakening is coming early 2025 on PC. I don't have a lot of invested in this, but there are previews of this if you want to know the details on what this.
Travis loves this one, but I have watched this now. This is very much not me. I love Dune, but this is not my kind of game.
You should love this game.
So this entry in the Duneverse isn't doing it for you, Hogue?
I'm not adopting that term.
You should like this Duneverse entry. That is my argument. I've seen a lot of this game. Every time I see it, I'm like, damn, they're smart. They're thinking about this in the right way. They have a pedigree and experience with this from Conan Exiles. I think this game is going to be great.
Well, good.
I also was skeptical before I saw it, by the way.
I watched their big deep dive video from Gamescom on this. It's just not for me.
Hope said, let's try and get hashtag Duneverse trending.
I did not.
Duneverse.
All right. Last game I wanted to mention from Gamescom Open Night Live, which I know Hogue wanted to touch on. So I had to do a little research on this one, but Civilization 7 is coming. Obviously, Civilization as an IP has a big community. There is a good preview on Eurogamer for this. I'm sure other sites as well. But I read up on it a little bit just to know where the controversy lied, because I saw some controversy around it. So let me read this real quick, Hogue, and then you can kind of give your commentary. And Travis, obviously, can jump in too. But
sure.
Basically, what the interview says with the game director is saying that after finishing development of Civ 6, and they did their normal post-mortem, the developers of Firaxis found themselves stuck on a dilemma. And he explained, and this is a quote, "We were very, very self-critical in looking at Civ 6. No matter how well Civ 6 sold or what people in the community thought, I was shocked at how self-critical the design team was about ripping things apart that they didn't like." And so with that in mind, the main problem they identified, he said, is that games would stretch out for an eternity without any real moments for players to take a natural break before coming back. He said it meant, quote, "a significant amount of players becoming too exhausted by marathon games to ever finish them." And to find an answer to that, Beach turned to history and recalled a common idiom: history is built in layers. And so for what they're doing with Civ 7, which will no doubt be probably controversial, is they're introducing a new starting system called Ages. And the quote on this is, it's a foundational structure change in how the game functions. Games will now be referred to as campaigns, and they're broken up into 3 distinct stages: the Antiquities Age, the Exploration Age, and the Modern Age. And each age will come with what was only loosely described as unique content and gameplay, with the goal of highlighting what made each period interesting. It's sort of like going from trying to tell one really long story. It's more now like Lord of the Rings, big comparison, where we get 3 conclusions, but they are still all together. So that's from the interview. I don't have any dog in this fight. Take it away.
I don't find the eras concept the most controversial thing that Civ 7 is doing. I want to say a couple of things on Civ 7. First of all, I'm a big-time Civilization player. I love almost all of them. They make choices in every version that maybe different players will agree with and different will disagree with. I like Civ 6 a lot. It's not my favorite of the civilizations, but I like Civ 6 a lot. The biggest, most controversial thing to me that they're doing here is that they're separating out the concept of leadership, and civilizations in a way that I don't like very much, or at least I don't like as described to me, right? I haven't played this game yet. I'm not going to come out here and just tell you all the things I hate about what's described, because I don't know how it'll actually play. But the biggest change that they've made to me is that you can take any leader and put them with any civilization. And I don't worry about that for myself, because I probably won't do that. I'll keep the historical look, because that's how I like to play these games. I worry the most about the computer-led civilizations, that it's just going to be Benjamin Franklin heading the Zulu up against me in some fashion that's not going to be very attractive. Part of the fun of Civilization is kind of building out a fake alternative history that is at least recognizable to what we have in the world. And I think that they're missing pretty big with having this be one of their changes. And I get why, from a board game kind of strategy element, you want to be able to mix and match your advantages with different civilizations. I get that mathematically. I don't think it is worth it for the narrative that they're going to be losing on that.
Okay.
But I want to say a good thing to go with the thing I don't like. I really love how Civilization 7 looks. I said this last week. I was excited to see what exactly they were going to do with their modeling. And as best I can tell, it's kind of a halfway point between 5 and 6, or a combination of both. It's kind of a realistic diorama, rather than a cartoony approach or too realistic. So I like how Civ 7 looks. Okay. And I think that's worth giving them credit for, even if I don't like some of their design moves.
I also like Civilization games, and I don't have a problem with the different ages or eras mechanic, because I think those eras kind of already organically exist in the things that you do in Civilization. When you're,
if anything, they're too big to care about. I mean, like those are enormous sequences of time. Yeah,
they are. And they're kind of already built into how Civ works. I hope, like Hook said, like they make different decisions every one, so it's hard to tell like how this is all going to work on the whole. I certainly don't have a problem with leaders being a part of different nations. It's a game. I think it's okay if it can get a little silly. I think Hoag's being a fuddy-duddy on that one. But
I think you lose the reason most people come in and play Civilization. I mean, I really do think that you're losing the speciality you have. Anybody can play a 4X with random stuff, right? There's a reason Civilization is Civilization and Age of Wonders is Age of Wonders. And I think Age of Wonders is primarily the better game.
We'll see. We'll see. I think they may have some settings where you can lock leaders to civilizations. If that's the case, I certainly don't think there's an option or there's a problem with having an option to do that. I think it allows for some fun, interesting mechanics and combinations and weird alternate histories that are just totally out there, which is, it's a game. So it should be fun and interesting and a little weird. I'm okay with that.
They're also moving away from political leaders on the whole, which you can understand because they've made so many civilizations that they're essentially out of political leaders. But I don't know how that will feel either. And I can be called a fuddy-duddy. That's fine. But to me, the fantasy is seeing an alternative history of something that looks like we can recognize it. Right. And there's a lot of goofiness in Civilization that I've always liked. Right. You get the people on horseback fighting submarines, and you get the differences in time and technology. And that's cool. That's fun. But I am not convinced that even for the value of opening up the design space by having the leaders kind of move between civilizations, it's worth it in this respect. And there are other things that I like about what they announced. One of my favorite announcements about Civ 7 is that they have combined city-states and barbarian tribes into one kind of group of independents that you can decide whether to fight or negotiate with. I think that's brilliant. I think that is super smart. So I don't want to just sit here and say that team is crazy or they're just making bad decisions. I don't think that. I think they're trying to open up the design space, and I think they went too far in a couple of spaces.
Well, I, for one, am looking forward to the great emancipator Abraham Lincoln leading his army of samurai into battle. That's what I'm looking forward to. So,
I will combat you with William Shakespeare's Egypt.
Pretty good.
Fair enough. Okay.
Look, I mean, this is already sounding more fun to me. So I really don't understand what your nitpick is here. But yeah, I think it's.
I want to see that stream. By the way, for the Civ fans out there, when does this game come out? February 11th officially, and 6th, 5 days earlier for Travis's favorite, the paid early access.
To me, Civilization game doesn't really come out until they have their big fix up everything patch, which never fixes up everything, but they have a massive patch that changes a lot of the math.
I never play Civ games at launch.
Yeah, fair enough. But pretty cool. Obviously, this goes alongside what we've seen out of some of the chat was talking about Aura History Untold, of course, which we've talked about here.
I want to talk about Aura a little bit because it is interesting to have these big discussions at the same time. Aura seems to be going for something similar with respect to the eras and whatnot, but its big claim to fame, as best I could tell from the design dives, is that the turns are simultaneous, which affords a couple of things. One of which is that you can have a lot more civilizations operating on the same world at the same time, because you don't get what you get in Civilization, which is you have to wait a certain amount of time for every other civilization that's going. So you can have a lot of civilizations at once. I don't think Aura looks like it's as complicated a game as a traditional Civilization. It looks a little bit simpler, which can be fine. But certainly Civilization 7 is the one that I remembered more than the Aura design stuff that I watched. So I don't think it's done enough to differentiate itself.
Okay, fair enough. All right. And then the last thing I was going to mention, which people have made jokes about this week, is yet another major gaming event in 2024 now, getting to later in 2024 with no mention whatsoever of the Hollow Knight Silksong.
Silksong
lost in translation.
Silksong is somewhere out there cooking. What I really didn't like was that I didn't get to see Expedition 33. I thought French company, French game, we would be at the European Game Show.
Too soon.
That's the one I'm really excited about seeing, though. They had the big draw at E3.
Well, that's what I mean. It's only been 2 months since they first showed it. They're probably back in the cooker.
Yeah,
show me some more stuff.
Expecting to see that one.
Yeah, maybe Game Awards. Maybe it's gonna. I think that one's gonna be a little bit.
I can't wait for Expedition 33 and 33 Immortals to launch on the same day or something stupid like that. I can't wait for that to happen.
Both in February.
No, it'll be March 3rd.
March 3rd. Yeah, that's good. Also, someone pointed out, and this is really for you, Hogue, not that it's good news, but someone pointed out this morning or yesterday that the Suikoden remasters, what's the proper way to pronounce that?
I say Suikoden
remasters. It's been a year since they announced the delay that they weren't releasing in 2023, and we still don't have an update.
I'm really excited about the Suikoden remasters, but honestly, Konami is not a company I trust, so it's just they'll come out when they come out.
Fair enough. All right. Obviously, there were other games. There's other things we'll get to in the coming weeks, but that's kind of the biggest overview I want to do of the main things at Gamescom. We do have a couple things to catch up on. Shush here with a super chat.
Shush gives me €5 to write. We also have Heroes of Might and Magic, Golden Era in 2025 with OG H2 H3 look, made by devs of Eratus, Lord of the Dead.
Yeah, Heroes of Might and Magic coming back. It's pretty cool. Might and Magic is one of those IPs. Like every time I see it, I get a little nostalgic just because it was such a core RPG IP when I was younger. I'm sure, Hogue, you know what I'm talking about. It just seemed to be everywhere back then, which is cool.
And I like Heroes of Might and Magic. It's King's Bounty. So those are fun.
Very similar. Yeah. So very cool. Shush, thank you very much. And Mr. Pomps, my Halo partner in crime, gifting 5 season gaming memberships. Thank you, my friend. I have not played Halo with Pomps this week because Concord has taken all my time.
I played Halo this week.
Did you?
Yeah.
Nice. Good. Last time I played Halo, I think I almost rage quit because we only really play ranked most of the time, and it's not in good shape. I think I angry tweeted at like 1 a.m. about it, but it's not great. So, but anyway, Pomps.
One of my old school Halo brethren when I was in Philadelphia paid him a visit, and we played some Halo Master Chief Collection, and then we finally hopped on that Halo Infinite co-op campaign, which I have not revisited, and it was fun to do that. So.
It's really good. Yeah, I only played it very briefly with Pomp and Mo, but yeah, I've been wanting to go back to it in co-op and just finding the time. So, but Pomp, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Now,
all right, boys.
I can't help but notice. I know we're at 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Please, I'm tired. I
can't help but notice that you did not include any mention of Skull and Bones launching season 3 this week.
You just killed Travis. He's ragdolling. You've ragdolled Travis.
Travis, your physics isn't working, buddy.
He's on Unreal 5. It's still taking some tuning. But no, I did not mention that. I still have not played my copy of Skull and Bones because of the other stuff we've talked about. But if you want to give, I'll give you 14 seconds.
I will take
That's
14
the most
seconds.
I can do.
I just want to throw out there that Skull and Bones continues to become more and more polished. It has a new calendar system. It has a new electricity element that you can use. It has new enemies and a new.
All right. And on that note.
Hey, Hogue.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Oh my god. Oh god, I can't do it. Oh, Hogue just left. He took off. He's like, I'm done with you. Hogue, you coming back? Where'd you go, Hogue? Come back.
He's gone.
Okay. You killed him.
That's fine.
Oh god. All right. Well, we'll start when does season 3 of Skull and Bones actually come out?
I think it's in a couple weeks.
It is out. It started.
It's out.
I knew that would get him out. It is out. Okay. Have you, in all seriousness, Hogue, have you played it? Season 3?
I have. They have a cool little iguana pet that you get.
Okay.
They have all sorts of good stuff. That game is continuing to get a lot of love thrown at it. I don't think just because of me, but honest to God, Skull and Bones is great. Season 3 is cool, and the new calendar that they have set up lets you see exactly what they're going to do in various weeks. And I think it's a really good game that they're trying to figure out how to tell the narratives in these seasons. So they keep trying different things. This one has a little bit more direction. And they have a new system that started halfway through season 2 that kind of has recommended tasks because the game is so big. So you can get a little bit of help on where you might steer your ship. because Fortune and Glory is out there, folks, for you in Skull and Bones.
All right. All
I do
right.
want to
On
fight
that
the dragon.
No,
The
that's
dragon
good.
doesn't
No,
come out for another week or so.
all jokes aside, we already said it once, but it's one of the things I'll continue to give Ubisoft props for is they do support those games. It's really great to see. The content is interesting. So yeah, check it out. All right, let's go ahead and get out of here. We're going to start closing out. Chat, you've been amazing this week. Thank you. A lot of people swinging by today. A lot of generosity. Thank you so much. As always, I'll mention the audio listeners who more and more of them with us weekly. So thank you so much for that. Hope you're enjoying it out there, including when Travis curses at Hogs and he leaves the show briefly. Good moments like that you can't miss. Next week, we'll obviously be talking about Star Wars Outlaws. We've been talking about that game for a while. Reviews are out tomorrow as we're recording, and we'll have a lot of commentary on that. We will have our final Concord reviews out as well on the Season Gaming side. I'm also doing an unboxing of some collectibles. I was going to do this week, but the reviews have taken over all my time. So stay tuned for that. But Hogue, I'll pass to you first this week.
Sure. Well, folks can see me doing a 2.5 hour long Sacred Symbols Plus over on Last Stand Media. We talked about a bunch of business stuff together. I think that conversation went well. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, go check it out over there. Otherwise, on my channel, we've been pretty quiet, but I do want to do a video probably this week, maybe next, about the FTC non-compete block getting enjoined and being stopped. So folks are interested in that whole non-competition conversation. And I had told them that I thought the FTC was probably exceeding its authority, but nobody believed me. And now that it's gotten blocked and is almost certainly dead now, we'll see how it goes from there.
Fair enough. All right. Travis, what you got?
Review of Concord this week. Review of Squirrel with a Gun. I think it comes out next week, so they're not doing early review copies for that, so I'll be reviewing it once the game is out. And then beyond that, I'm just going to be reviewing, previewing. I've got a Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred thing this week. Yeah, so that's me. IGN.com.
There you go. Yeah, that site needs some exposure is what I heard, so yeah, keep shouting it out.
Totes. Yeah, we need all the help we can get.
Go to IGN and you can get the reviewers to swear at you live.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. There you go. We bring it all here. Everyone, thank you as always for the support. Really appreciate it. I hope you have a great week in gaming. It's a fantastic time for games. So seriously, whatever you're playing, hope you're enjoying the hell out of it. And we will be back next week with more to talk about.
Ames, before you hit the button, can I ask you a question? I also want to keep Travis live on camera here for a second. What is the Journey Astrobot just over your shoulder? What is that? What's going on there?
I will shout this out because I love these guys. So Edge Magazine is a British gaming magazine, one of the best in the world, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And they are doing, for their special 400th issue, they are, every once in a while, Edge does really cool covers. I have a whole bunch of them from different eras, right? For their 400th issue, they're doing a string of collectible Astrobot covers that are takes on Sony IPs. There's 10 different ones. I am a subscriber, so I got this yesterday. I got the Journey one, but there is also there's a God of War one. There's a Bloodborne one. There's a Sly Cooper one. There's some really cool different covers you can get. This is number 5 of 10, but I wanted to call it out. Not because Edge is awesome, which they are, but also because Astrobot's going to kick ass. So I'm excited.
Astrobot is going to be awesome. I'm glad you're on board for that. If I'm not a subscriber to that magazine, can I go and order that?
You absolutely can. You used to be able to find them at like Barnes and Nobles and stores that would import magazines, but because hard print is so rare now, it's either hard to find or really expensive. You can go to Edge Online. You can subscribe in America, and it's actually pretty reasonable. It's only like $12 an issue, shipped. It's fantastic. Highly recommended.
All right. Well, I'm glad I asked. I saw it the whole show, and I was like, what is that?
I know. It just came yesterday, and it's really cool. And I've actually ordered, you could order individual issues from them. I've actually ordered 2 more, hoping I get different covers.
Different Astrobots. Awesome.
Yeah. So
see, Travis, that was well worth it, man.
Yeah. Actually, the coolest one they ever did, you're going to get me talking now. So Travis, hang out for a few minutes. When they hit issue, I think it's 200, right? They did 200 different covers. So like for years, people were hunting down all these different covers, and all of it was famous art from classic video games. I think I have like 6 of them from 200. I have like Street Fighter 2. I have like Gradius. I have Axelay. A few of them, but like they have a couple Halo ones I never got. They have Mario's, all these different IPs, but they're very cool. Anyway, Travis is calling 911. It's going to be a Waymo. He's going to like be honking outside your house. Don't worry about it, Travis. It's not even going to work. So anyway, chat, you've been awesome. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your week of gaming. Give Concord a look. I promise it's very good. And we will talk more about Outlaws and other big games next week. Until then, peace.